Sassy Go-Go starts off with a young girl walking onto a high school campus early in the morning, the building lighting up as if to greet her, and in voiceover she says that school has an air of youthful romance. The scene shifts to show her in the study hall, laughing at the notice that academically she's 196th out of 200 students. She thinks to herself, "Crazy wench," as her smile turns to tears. This is Yeon-do, who studies hard but just can't manage to do any better than bottom of her class. She wasn't born brilliant like the high achievers, who are also rich, good-looking, and have great personalities, and muses that life isn't fair. Yeon-do enters a darkened storeroom where several other students sit, and they all check their rankings together with an air of utter seriousness. They all did badly, some even worse than Yeon-do, but they bolster each other's spirits. These kids are the dance club, the one place where they excel. 1 year later, Yeon-do's second year of high school. In the middle of practice, the dance club's sound system goes silent. The students trying to study in the next room have unplugged it where it was snuck through the wall and into their room. The dance club resorts to charging their tiny generator with a bicycle. These kids all go to Sevet High School, which is proud of its track record in sending students on to top-rated colleges. The faculty and parents hold a meeting in which they discuss their plans to send at least 50% of this year's graduating class to one of the top 3 Korean universities. The parents wonder if they'll continue to allow clubs, which take away from crucial study time, particularly one club whose noise disturbs other students. Principal Choi stands to state that they plan to abolish any clubs that cause a disturbance. Meanwhile, the dance club blasts their music as they practice, and the study club cranks up their classical music to counter the pop coming through the walls. It spurs them to crank their music louder, and so does the study club. This goes on until the dance club's generator sparks and burns. They decide to handle this in person, and the 2 groups of students face off. One of the girls in the study group, Sua, gets a text from her mother, who's at the school for the meeting, and she grimaces. Yeon-do takes the offensive as the leader of her little club. But she flounders a bit when the student vice president and first in his class, Kim Yeol, gets in her face and says they should spend more time studying. She counters that her club is restricted from the things that make studying so easy, like electricity and air conditioning. She admits they didn't do well on the placement exam, which Yeol spits is what happens when you're stupid. Them's fightin' words and the dance club is ready to rumble, but Yeon-do asks if they can't just use their electricity. We're introduced to the 2 groups. Yeol's group is White Tiger, the cheerleading club, but in name only. All of them are in the top 5% of their class, the school's cream of the crop. Yeon-do's group is Real King, the street dance club, the bottom 5% of the class, and shame of the school. Yeol goes too far and tells the dance club to grovel if they want electricity, and that's all Yeon-do can take. The 2 clubs fight, but it's hilariously nerdy on both sides. Yeon-do's big move of headbutting Yeol ends in her trying to untangle her hair from his name tag while he stands with his hands in the air. Just as she breaks free and makes as if to punch Yeol for real, Teacher Tae-bum breaks up the fight and sends everyone back to class. And just in time, because the parents and faculty parade down the hall about 2 seconds later, another teacher, Teacher I.M., figures something is up. And he just about cries when he sees that the dance club has broken the generator. He assigns demerits and declares that if this sort of thing happens again, their club will be disbanded. The principal is just itching for a reason to dissolve their club. Sua meets her mother outside, and she doesn't even ask about anything other than her studies. She's angry that Sua ranked 2nd in the class, and makes it clear that kind of failure won't be tolerated again. Though Yeon-do and Sua are technically club rivals, they're also roommates who seem friendly when alone. Yeon-do complains about the imbalance in the way the school treats the clubs, so Sua suggests the 2 captains just talk it out. Yeon-do doesn't think Yeol will ever give an inch. Sua heads to a student meeting, and the White Tiger students find their study room completely destroyed. Someone set off a fire extinguisher, and the assumption is that Real King is responsible. But Real King also finds their practice room vandalized, with Real King out painted in red on the floor and their equipment tampered with. So Yeon-do sits down with Yeol to discuss a peace treaty. She offers him a cola and gives it a good shake before handing it over, and she starts by mentioning how unfairly her club is treated. Yeol just grins that life is unfair, get used to it, which infuriates Yeon-do. She kicks the stool out from under his feet right as he pops the cola and flails away from the spray. Her own vehemence knocks her legs out from under her, and she falls on top of him, faces uncomfortably close. Yeol doesn't seem one bit nervous and offers for her to get off, or they could just go for it. He actually tilts his head to kiss Yeon-do, but they hear a noise and see someone's smartphone taking a picture. We don't see who took the picture other than that it's a female student, and she sends the photo to the school to report Yeon-do and Yeol for immoral behavior. Teacher Yang just laughs when he gets the text, then rolls his eyes when Teacher Im catches sight of the picture, knowing that Teacher Im will tattle to the principal. Soon enough, a notice is posted that Real King faces disbandment over this issue. Yeon-do marches to the principal's office, where Yeol happens to be smirking over the unfairness of his club getting off scot-free. He actually comments that it's too bad Yeon-do's family doesn't have money and power like his, but the principal isn't as accommodating as he thinks. She does plan a little punishment for him. Teacher Im bars Yeon-do from the office, so she asks him to at least tell her who took the picture. Whoever they are, they know that she and Yeol weren't really kissing. She's further incensed when she realizes that Yeol got in to talk to the principal and not her, but Yeol just says that their statuses are different. Yeon-do grabs Yeol's shirt, but the principal comes out, so Yeol cozily bustles Yeon-do away to talk. On the roof, she asks why he didn't just tell the principal that they never kissed, but he says they wouldn't believe that anyway. The principal only cares about getting rid of Real King. They wonder who could have turned them in. And Yeol has some theories about someone holding a grudge. He's not interested in telling the truth about the non-kiss, though. 1, because it wouldn't benefit him. 2, because it won't do any good. And 3, and here he leans in uncomfortably close, because the two of them aren't close enough to deal with hardship together. Yeon-do heads back to class, whining and stomping over Yeol's refusal to just tell the truth. She sees some guys playing basketball in the gym and goes in to talk to her friend Ha Dong-jae. He's awfully popular, with a gaggle of girls screaming his name on the sidelines, though he turns out to be a bit of a hyodang. His teammates gripe when he lets the other team get a point and win the game, and Yeon-do steps in to get his back. Dong-jae points out that he's made half the points in this game, but he just doesn't like getting hit, and then he uses Yeon-do as a shield when the guys go after him. Later, Yeon-do keeps Dong-jae company while he shoots baskets, wondering why he plays when he hates physical contact and his teammates hate him. She whines about Real King being disbanded, and Dong-jae just grins at her cuteness. They share a strawberry milk, and Yeon-do ignores a call from her mother, sure that she's heard about her getting demerits. Yeon-do fixates on Yeol's refusal to tell the truth, now complaining to Soo-ah about him. She runs off when she gets a message that Real King's room is being emptied, and Soo-ah takes out her phone to delete the picture. She set them up by suggesting the meeting, then caught them in a compromised position. Yeon-do arrives at the club's room to find the school removing all of their equipment, while the White Tiger kids stand and sneer. Yeon-do sadly remembers when the graduating students passed down the care of Real King to her, and she'd promised to keep it alive. The ruckus brings Principal Choi, and Yeon-do swears to her tearfully that she won't cause any more trouble if only she lets them keep their club. Even Yeol seems taken aback by her heartfelt plea that this club is their life and breath, but the principal just says that if the school strangles her so much, she can transfer. The other Real King members are beaten, ready to give up and just focus on studying like everyone else. Yeon-do pretends to be okay for their sake and agrees, though they seem disappointed that she didn't even try to rally their spirits. Yeon-do goes up to the roof to sit with Real King's evicted equipment, and she turns on some music and slowly begins to dance. It becomes clear why she loves this so much. She completely transforms when she's dancing. Yeol helps his roommate and fellow White Tiger member Ha-jun apply some pain patches to his bruised back, asking if it was his father's handiwork. Ha-jun just says he didn't do well on an exam and waves away Yeol's concern. Yeon-do sits on the roof until after dark, cursing Yeol, the snitch, the school, and the entire world. She was surprised by Yeol, who came to the roof to cool off, and she admits that the unfairness of this whole thing is driving her nuts. Yeol goes inside without comment, but when Yeon-do heads in herself, there's a note on the door telling her to make a poster if it's that unfair. She takes his advice, enlisting Dong-jae's help as they sneakily hide out in the laundry room. They're surprised by Soo-ah, who worries that it won't be effective just coming from Yeon-do and suggests she ask Yeol for help. Yeon-do declines, which makes Soo-ah unhappy. We get a flashback as Soo-ah is briefed by an advisor on Yeol as her primary rival. He's too smart for her to beat him academically, so she'll have to find another way, like demerits on his report card. She's advised to make friends with the other White Tiger kids because there's one thing she lacks: impact. She only ever studies and has no extras that colleges look for. On her way out, Soo-ah is told to avoid Yeon-do, as she has nothing to offer. Soo-ah disagrees. Yeon-do will do anything for a little kindness. She could prove useful. The students gather around the next morning to see Yeondu putting up her poster, but she's caught by Teacher Yang. He just tells her she should do this stuff before dawn. When Teacher Im comes close, he buys her time to finish putting the poster up. Yeondu puts up posters all over the school, followed closely by Teacher Im, who tears them all down. Teacher Yang takes a photo of one of the posters and sends in a report of unfair dissolution of a club to the Ministry of Education. Yeondu resorts to standing outside the school hollering about injustice, while Dong Jae loyally stands with her holding her strawberry milk. Principal Choi comes out to confront her, but she loses her composure when someone approaches. It's someone from the Ministry of Education, having come to investigate the report. Apparently, Yeondu has gotten famous online, and the ministry isn't happy about Sevit's suppression of club activities. And with that, Yeondu is off the hook. But there's backlash, as all the students are now required to turn in their cell phones at the start of class every morning, and a 2-week ban on leaving the grounds is instituted. At lunch, Yeondu's tray is knocked out of her hands by some kids who are angry about the new school restrictions. They know the school will be going through their phones looking for that photo to find the whistleblower, and they all have things on their phones that could get them in big trouble. Surprisingly, it's Yeol who tells the students to back off. Yeondu appeals to Teacher Yang about the restrictions, but he claims they're just to encourage the students to study more. She wheedles for him to just tell her who tattled on her, and he only orders her to class. But when he leaves, Yeondu is tempted by the cell phone that he left on his desk. She sneakily pulls up his texts and sees that the report and photo came from her supposed friend, Sua. She confronts Sua right away, who completely changes once she realizes she's caught. Shiver, her eyes just go dead. She laughs when Yeondu asks if she's even her friend, saying that nobody in this school would be her friend. But they still have to sit through music class, and when it's Yeondu's turn to perform, Sua doesn't join her as they'd practiced. Yeondu sings alone, and it's painfully obvious that not one classmate is paying attention, which seems to hammer home Sua's words. Emotional, Yeondu's voice cracks on the high note, and she stops. She walks right up to Sua and barks, "You look down on people, right?" She tells Sua that she may seem to have everything, but not to misunderstand. Everyone knows about her. On a roll, Yeondu turns on Yeol next. Did we kiss or not? He just laughs, and she asks if he likes everyone, thinking they kissed. And as long as everyone thinks it, they may as well make it for real. She leans over his desk and invites him to kiss her right now, but he just smiles nervously. She moves on to the lunchroom bullies and tells them it wasn't her who's responsible for the restrictions, but the principal. Why are they taking it out on her? To the rest of the class, she says they're all the same. They're so obsessed with grades, they'll ignore a friend who needs them. The teacher finally stops Yeondu, but Sua has something to say now. She asks if Yeondu is so different from them, and Yeondu admits that this whole situation has enlightened her. She's played into the grades are everything mindset of the school, and has been laying low because of her poor grades. So, she's quitting. She packs and goes, though she's already wondering if she went too far. Back at school, Dong Jae dumps one of his strawberry milks over Sua's head, innocently wide-eyed as he admits that he did it on purpose. He calls Sua by name and says that from now on, he'll remember exactly who she is. Sua's mother and advisor confront Principal Choi about the Ministry of Education complaint and Sua's school performance. And is that a bribe they're counting out? Mom says she's also sent her a new office refrigerator, and inside, Principal Choi finds boxes full of, I assume, cash. Yeondu goes home, where her mother expresses incredulity that the ban against students leaving the school early was lifted. Yeondu looks shifty-eyed, and Mom's no fool. She knows Yeondu left without permission. Yeondu just wails that the food is salty and bursts into loud tears. Yeondu spends the night in her room, doodling notes to herself, "I'm not happy. I want to be happy." She looks around the room at her own uplifting, self-supportive notes and wonders where it all went wrong. She thinks that she never used to give up, but if she doesn't give up, it won't end. There's a sound at her window, and it's Dong Jae from his bedroom next door. He says he has bad news, and even worse news. Bad news first. She lost a lot of points for leaving school. We don't hear the even worse, but it has Yeondu charging back to school the next morning, looking ready to kick ass and take names. She steels herself and barges into the White Tiger Club room and announces herself, "Starting today, I'm taking over White Tiger." Sua scoffs, dismissing Yeondu as unqualified, but Yeondu counters sharply, accusing them of inventing arbitrary rules to exclude others. While Yeol seems entertained by the banter, Ha-jun loses his temper, yelling at Yeondu to leave. Annoyed, she snaps back, biting him, no less, and defiantly declares she's staying because she has nowhere else to go. The situation escalates when teacher Im drags Yeon-do to the staff room by her collar, his temper boiling. Both freeze in their tracks when an indignant voice commands him to stop. It's Yeon-do's mom. Furious, Mom lambasts the school for mistreating her daughter and threatens to report them, demanding an immediate transfer. But mid-rant, Yeon-do desperately whispers to her mom that she doesn't want to leave, throwing a wrench in her mother's fiery outburst. Outside, Yeon-do asks if her mom got the scoop from Dong-jae. Mom collapses onto a bench, lamenting that she probably ruined everything, but Yeon-do is impressed, listing all the ways her mom stood up to the school. Relieved, Mom admits she's glad Yeon-do is staying, but asks if she's sure she can handle it. Yeon-do promises to persevere and vows to reclaim real king. Mom, beaming, agrees that studying is overrated if dancing makes her happy, as long as she doesn't struggle alone. They share a heartfelt hug, with Yeon-do telling her mom she's amazing. That night, Yeon-do camps out in Baekho headquarters, bundled in a sleeping bag while studying on the floor. Teacher Im storms in, threatening her with more demerits, but she brushes him off, daring him to go ahead. Frustrated, he resorts to physically dragging her out. At lunch, Yeon-do ramps up her resistance, joined by her loyal friend Hyo-shik. They parade around holding placards with civic messages on one side. When teacher Im isn't watching, they flip them to reveal their true slogans, "We want to dance," and Hyo-shik's cheeky addition, "Play, play, because we're young." Naturally, they get caught and are sentenced to clean the gym. Their punishment turns into a lively gathering as two more Real King members join in with mops in hand, transforming the chore into a spirited activity. When it's time to water the plants, curly-haired Sung-woo joins them, and it all devolves into a playful water fight. Yeol watches the scene from a distance, puzzled by Yeon-do's relentless determination. Ha-jun fumes when a stray splash of water hits him, but Yeol holds him back, remarking wistfully, "They're just acting like 18-year-olds. Teacher Im, as relentless as Yeon-do, eventually chases her down again. This time, she crashes into Yeol, toppling onto him. Embarrassed, she scrambles to get up, but Yeol pulls her closer, teasing, "You're always ambushing me." Flashing back to their last close encounter, he begins, 1, only for her to bolt upright, babbling nervously. Amused, Yeol watches her leave, but his expression softens when he sees her meeting Dong-jae. Dong-jae, ever calm, hands Yeon-do a strawberry milk, and they stroll away together. Later, Yeol buys himself a strawberry milk from the cafeteria, raising it to Ha-jun with a curious smile. In the gym, Dong-jae gently towels off Yeon-do's damp hair as she sighs in frustration. Her group had landed in trouble again because of her, and she wonders aloud how she'll ever face them if she can't get Real King back. Without a word, Dong-jae picks up a basketball and starts shooting hoops. Kang Yeon-do will persist until the end, he declares, sinking the ball cleanly into the net. Kang Yeon-do will fight Sevet High and win, he continues, making another shot. Yeon-do watches, her spirits lifting slightly, and takes her own turn at shooting. The ball misses, leaving her even more dejected as she heads out of the gym. Dong-jae, with his usual calm, makes one final shot and calls out, "Kang Yeon-do will get Real King back." Meanwhile, Soo-ah reflects bitterly on a mock Ivy League interview. The panel had scrutinized her stellar list of accomplishments, but ultimately dismissed her for lacking the emotional depth and human connection that make achievements meaningful. Humiliated, she turned to her consultant, Director Lee, demanding a solution to gain the impact she needs to stand out. Later, as she leaves the dormitory to meet Director Lee, Soo-ah's path is blocked by Yeon-do wielding a mop. Yeon-do orders her to clean, pointedly reminding her of her earlier behavior. Soo-ah scoffs, advising Yeon-do to keep her head down and avoid more trouble. Yeon-do doesn't back down, vowing to watch Soo-ah fail, apologize, and clean up her messes. Infuriated, Soo-ah pushes past her. In the corridor, Director Lee crosses paths with Yeol, offering him a sly smile. She suggests his talents are too great to waste and encourages him to consider an Ivy League future, slipping him her card. Around the corner, Soo-ah confronts her, but Lee brushes her off, casually assuring her that her primary focus is securing Soo-ah's place at Harvard. Elsewhere, Principal Choi throws a fit in her office as Teacher Im cowers. The phone buzzes incessantly with complaints from furious parents, though the specifics remain unclear. Desperate, Im suggests reinstating the Real King Club, even if it's in a storage closet, to appease the students. Principal Choi flatly refuses, determined not to yield. Director Lee saunters into the office without invitation. Over a cup of tea, she lays out her proposal. Soo-ah needs to win a cheerleading competition to gain the impact she lacks. Principal Choi balks at the impossibility of turning the school into a cheerleading champion overnight, but Lee dismisses her concerns with a parting command to make it happen. In the laundry room, Yeon-do stares tearfully at a washing machine spinning with her precious belongings inside, fuzzy slippers, a trophy, and a framed photo of the real King members. Soo-ah stands nearby, coldly informing her that she cleaned, as Yeon-do had demanded, before walking away with her smirking minions. Setting the now-wet photo on top of the machine, Yeon-do warns Soo-ah and her crew that they've gone too far. The Baek-ho girls sneer and mock her belongings, shoving her back and forth. Outnumbered and losing, Yeon-do suddenly finds herself joined by the real King members, who charge into the fray. In retaliation, they stuff the Baek-ho girls' belongings into another machine, balancing the scales. Breathless and exhilarated, the real King group escapes into the night, laughing as Yeon-do proclaims, "Real King isn't dead yet." The jubilant mood is shattered when Jun-soo, the group's quietest member, smashes the rescued group photo on the ground. "Real King is dead," he declares, urging them to wake up. If they can just endure until college, he insists, they'll be free to dance all they want then. In the heavy silence that follows, Yeon-do asks how they can live like the dead when they're still alive. Why can't they be with their friends, dance, and find happiness now? Jun-soo replies bitterly that they don't have permission to be happy, so they can't. Frustrated and disheartened, he walks away, leaving the group in stunned silence. The following day, the real King gang, minus Jun-soo, bands together with Yeon-do and Hyo-shik to continue their Occupy Baek-ho campaign. With their support, Yeon-do's spirits lift, and she spontaneously kicks off a dance practice. Soon, all five are dancing and laughing, their camaraderie palpable. Principal Choi happens to walk by with teacher Im, who rushes off to scold the group. However, the principal lingers, watching the scene with a speculative glint in her eye. When teacher Im delivers their punishment, the group's cheery attitude surprises him. They decide running laps isn't so bad, given the beautiful weather. Frustrated but powerless, Im storms off, only for Principal Choi to appear and summon everyone, real King and Baek-ho members alike, to the Baek-ho clubroom the next day. The atmosphere in the clubroom is tense as the two groups face off. Hyo-shik jokes with fellow Real King member Da-mi to go easy on the skinny anchovies of Baek-ho, which prompts Ha-jun to lunge at them in anger. Yeon-do intervenes, reminding everyone they were invited. The squabbling halts as Principal Choi arrives. Teacher Im introduces the Project Win Cheerleading competition, citing reasons like reclaiming the school's glorious past. But Principal Choi cuts in with brutal honesty. The Education Ministry requires this as damage control for Yeon-do's prior protest. She then drops a bombshell. Real King's Yeon-do and Baek-ho's Yeol must team up and win the regional cheerleading competition. Outrage ripples through both clubs. Yeon-do declares the idea mission impossible, but Principal Choi counters with a tantalizing incentive. If they win, Real King will be reinstated. Yeon-do wavers, nearly agreeing, when Yeol interrupts sharply. Calling her out for her naivety, he dials a number. On speakerphone, Director Lee, Soo-ah's consultant, unwittingly exposes the truth. Baek-ho's participation in the cheerleading competition is a calculated move to boost Ivy League applications. The room is stunned. Yeol points out that someone clearly needs the cheerleading spec for college, his gaze landing on Soo-ah. A flashback reveals Director Lee assuring Soo-ah and her mother that their chances of success are high with only 2 competitors. Back in the present, Yeon-do realizes the principal's true motive, using Real King to prop up Baek-ho and, by extension, Soo-ah's aspirations. Principal Choi coolly brushes off the accusation, reminding Yeon-do that all she wants is her club back. Enraged, Yeon-do refuses to be manipulated. Soo-ah storms out, but Yeon-do follows, demanding an apology. Soo-ah retorts, her voice rising, that Yeon-do enjoys her privileges at Sevid High thanks to her family's payments. "So what's the big deal about shaking your body a bit?" she sneers. Yeon-do calls her pitiful, but Soo-ah doubles down, warning her to remember her place. On the rooftop, Soo-ah breaks down, screaming into the phone at Director Lee. Her mother calls next, and Soo-ah assures her she'll get into Harvard, with or without cheerleading. Just then, a basketball accidentally hits her head, Dong-jae's. He apologizes profusely, insisting it was unintentional this time. Observing her, he notes she seems to live a hard life, then promises to forget everything he overheard. Meanwhile, the Real King members debate their next move. Sung-woo and Da-mi consider taking the cheerleading offer, but Hyo-shik objects, calling it betrayal since Sua caused their disbandment. Their discussion is interrupted by news of their confirmation for a dance competition, reigniting their excitement, momentarily forgetting their troubles. Elsewhere, Yeondu's mom meets with Yeol's dad, lamenting her outburst at the school. She worries about the strain she's placed on Yeondu by sending her to Sevet High. Yeol's dad reassures her that piling on academic specs is the only way they know to prepare their kids for the future. He admits Yeol enrolled to escape him, which earns a teasing remark from Yeondu's mom about father and son being equally stubborn. Back in the dorms, Dong-jae stumbles upon a horrifying sight, Ha-jun lying unconscious and bleeding in the bathroom. The scene triggers Dong-jae's trauma, leaving him frozen as Yeol arrives and urgently tries to get help. Unable to wait, Yeol carries Ha-jun out himself, accidentally dropping a bloodied towel in the process. Sua notices the towel and picks it up with a calculating expression. Later, Sua meets Principal Choi, presenting the towel as leverage. "I think I know how to get Real King to cooperate," she smirks. At the dance festival, Yeondu and her friends, now energized, storm the stage. They toss off their capes, revealing edgy outfits beneath their school uniforms, and perform an electrifying routine. Midway through, Yeondu twists her ankle, but powers through to the end. Afterwards, the group is somber as Sungwoo and Jung-eun announce their decision to quit. They explain they participated in the festival for Yeondu, but insist Real King is over. The group is left shattered, their earlier victory overshadowed by the looming reality of their disbandment. Yeondu takes responsibility for the group's morale and suggests a consolation Noraebang outing. However, Sungwoo and Jung-eun decline, saying they need to return to school. Taking their decision in stride, Yeondu assures them she has somewhere to be as well. At the hospital, Yeondu gets her ankle treated. On her way out, she notices Yeol leaning against a wall. He brushes her off, telling her to mind her own business, but Ha-jun appears, revealing a bandaged wrist and blood-stained shirt. Alarmed, Yeondu hesitates, but Yeol firmly tells her, "You didn't see us today." She limps away, casting a final concerned glance over her shoulder. As she navigates the hospital corridors, Yeondu spots Teacher Yang arguing at the admin desk. Ducking to avoid him, she signals frantically to Yeol and Ha-jun. Yeol slips past behind a gurney, but Ha-jun veers off in another direction. Yeol ends up hiding with Yeondu in a corner, clamping a hand over her mouth to keep her quiet. When Teacher Yang finally moves on, Yeol exhales in relief and leans his head against hers for a moment. Realizing the proximity, he pulls back with a teasing comment, "You're not so bad when you're quiet." Yeondu glares, signaling for him to remove his hand, which he sheepishly does. Reunited, Ha-jun joins them, and they part ways. As Yeol turns to leave, he calls out with a crinkled smile, "Thanks, our Yeondu." Embarrassed, she brushes it off. Nearby, Teacher Yang overhears Ha-jun's name at the admin desk and pieces together the situation. Back at school, Dong-jae waits for Yeondu on the steps. She greets him with open arms, expecting a hug, but he walks past her to the boys instead. Yeol dismisses him with a sharp get lost and sweeps past. Frustrated, Yeondu confronts Dong-jae, demanding to know what's going on. He avoids her gaze, saying quietly, "I can't." His blank expression leaves her disheartened. From the shadows, Teacher Yang observes with mounting concern. Later, in an empty classroom, Teacher Yang confronts Ha-jun with a hospital report. He pushes up Ha-jun's sleeve, exposing not only fresh bandages, but scars from years of self-harm. Gently, he urges Ha-jun to seek help. Panicked, Ha-jun drops to his knees, begging him not to tell the principal. If his father finds out, he fears being institutionalized. Meanwhile, Principal Choi questions Yeol about Ha-jun's self-harming, slyly suggesting that his parents might look into alternative facilities. She dangles a cruel ultimatum: Yeol must agree to the cheerleading competition and convince the Real King kids to join as well. Her smirk widens when she points out his goal to graduate alongside Ha-jun, knowing she has him cornered. Elsewhere, Yeondu spots Sungwoo and Jung-eun in the hallway and lights up. But her smile fades as they enter a classroom with Sua. Curious, Yeondu peeks in and sees Sua showing them a video of stunt cheerleading. Her heart sinks as she realizes this is why they left the group. That night, Yeondu stretches out on a picnic bench under the stars with Dong-jae. She confides that she's been betrayed again. "How does that keep happening?" Dong-jae asks quietly. Her voice heavy with sadness, she replies, "I wish I knew." The next day, Yeol and Ha-jun emerge from separate meetings, both tense. Yeol smiles at Ha-jun, brushing off the unease by asking, "Hungry?" Ha-jun apologizes. Yeol snorts, calling him crazy, and they share a rare moment of lightness. In the morning, Dongjae notices Yeon-do avoiding the real king kids and questions her. She denies it, but her actions suggest otherwise. Yeol interrupts, asking for a private word, throwing a glance at Dongjae. Dongjae obligingly steps back, all of 2 paces. "Kang Yeon-do, let's do cheerleading together," Yeol says bluntly. Shocked by his sudden change of heart, Yeon-do folds her arms. 1. I don't hang out with people who go back on their word. 2. I refuse to be even remotely associated with Sua. With each point, she steps closer to him. 3, she declares, inches from his face. I definitely won't be doing cheerleading with you. She attempts to walk past, but Yeol grabs her wrist and pulls her back, shouting that she has to join. Unfazed, Yeon-do threatens him with a painful demise until he releases her grip. Principal Choi has a pointed conversation with Ha-jun, asking if everything is okay since his father had expressed concern at the last committee meeting. While Ha-jun remains subdued, Yeol appears visibly angry at the principal's manipulation. It's clear that their agreement. Her silence about Ha-jun's self-harm in exchange for Yeon-do and Real King joining the cheerleading team still weighs heavily on him. However, when Ha-jun asks Yeol about his interactions with Principal Choi, Yeol brushes it off as unimportant, proving yet again that he's a fiercely loyal friend. Tensions rise when Yeol and Ha-jun stumble upon a confrontation between Yeon-do alongside Hyo-shik and Da-mi, and Sua, flanked by Real King deserters Sung-woo and Kyung-eun. Sua smugly flaunts the betrayal of Yeon-do's former allies, insinuating that Yeon-do is selfishly holding Hyo-shik and Da-mi back. However, Hyo-shik tells Sua to shove it, earning a proud grin from Yeol as they walk past him. Later, Yeol approaches Sua, asking how she managed to sway the Real King members. She retorts that she didn't need to bribe them. They joined White Tiger to avoid being expelled from the dorms. Refusing to give up, Yeol confronts Yeon-do again, but she still won't listen. Determined, he devises a plan. He racks up demerits by deliberately breaking rules, ensuring he's assigned the same cleaning duty as Yeon-do. As they crush milk cartons for recycling, Yeol tries to win Yeon-do over. She challenges him to focus on the task if he really wants to prove himself. At first, they're slow and inefficient, but as Yeon-do demonstrates a quicker method and adds a playful rhythm, the two begin working in sync. Despite herself, Yeon-do starts to enjoy their teamwork, but she quickly pulls back, wary of letting her guard down. Yeol, however, grins knowingly, seeing the cracks in her defenses. Their brief camaraderie is interrupted when Hyo-shik shows up with his suitcase, revealing that he and Da-mi have been kicked out of the dorms. Yeon-do apologizes for being unable to help, but Hyo-shik bravely hides his disappointment, maintaining his loyalty to her. Yeol, seeing her heartbreak, asks if she's really going to let her friends leave. Yeon-do snaps, "What do you want me to do?" She knows that agreeing to cheerleading would fix everything, but she refuses to be manipulated. Overwhelmed, she breaks into sobs. Even an hour later, Yeon-do is still crying. To her surprise, Yeol remains by her side. When Ha-jun calls to warn him that closing time is in 5 minutes, Yeol quips, "How about crying while you run?" They miss curfew and are locked out, but Yeol, ever resourceful, whistles for Ha-jun to lower a rope. Yeon-do tries calling for help, but Sua deliberately ignores her call. Refusing to rely on Yeol, Yeon-do initially declines his help. Yeol presents her with 3 options: get caught and expelled, sleep outside, or climb the rope with his help. Begrudgingly, she chooses the 3rd option. The pair climb the rope while Dongjae anxiously waits inside, stalling the teacher conducting late-night inspections. When the teacher bursts into the room, Ha-jun claims Yeol is sick in bed. Beneath the covers, Yeon-do hides alongside Yeol, clinging to the sheets as Yeol feigns illness to ward off suspicion. After the teacher leaves, Yeol softly apologizes to Yeon-do for using her friends to try and convince her. Before he can finish, Ha-jun yanks the covers away, forcing Yeon-do to flee. Yeol watches her leave, looking like he still has something important left unsaid. Yeon-do manages to return to her dorm in time, only to receive a text from Yeol, asking her to meet him in the laundry room. When she arrives, he tells her he's going to try something new, a lie that sounds sincere. Yeol confesses that if he can't convince her, one of his friends will be in serious trouble. He needs to join the cheerleading team to protect that friend. For Yeon-do, pride is her top priority. For Yeol, his priority is his friend. He acknowledges her feelings but emphasizes that the decision is entirely hers. That night, Yeondu tosses and turns, staring at a picture of herself with the real King crew. Across campus, Yeol stays awake as well, silently watching over a sleeping Ha-jun. His thoughts linger on Yeondu's earlier tears, her declaration that her pride is the only thing she has left, and that she'd rather die than be used. In the middle of the night, Yeondu calls the real King members together, even Jun-soo, the first to leave. She asks them all a serious question: can they live without real King? For her, life without dancing is possible, but life without her friends isn't. She urges them to reclaim real King with her, even if it means joining the cheerleading team. Whether it's cheerleading or dancing, what truly matters is doing it together. The next day, all 6 of them boldly march into Principal Choi's office to confront her about their expulsions from the dorms. The principal, of course, denies any wrongdoing, insisting each eviction was justified. She claims they were given a choice: leave the dorms or join White Tiger. Yeondu, undeterred, states that they've decided to join White Tiger, on the condition that if they win regionals, real King will be officially restored. Principal Choi agrees, but Yeondu reveals she's been recording the conversation on her phone. With evidence in hand, she plans to hold the principal to her word. Principal Choi demands apology letters from each of them for barging into her office and misconduct. Anticipating this, the group smirks as they lay their pre-written letters on her desk. Their united defiance is both hilarious and satisfying. Later, Yeol catches Yeondu on the roof, psyching herself up with loud, self-encouraging shouts. He teases her, reminding her that he's already seen her cry with snot and all, so this is nothing new. When he thanks her for changing her mind, she asks if he can really protect his friend. He casually reminds her that his earlier plea was a lie. Meanwhile, the White Tiger students' mothers storm into the school, confronting Principal Choi over her manipulative schemes to help one student, Sua, get ahead. Choi defends herself, arguing that the program will bolster their children's college applications as well. But the moms are unmoved, vowing to expose her favoritism and corruption. Unbeknownst to everyone, someone snaps a photo of the confrontation through the office window. The image is quickly sent to the Education Office Civil Complaint Board, bringing the school's unethical practices under scrutiny. Elsewhere, Yeol's dad takes Yeondu's mom out for an elegant dinner, claiming there's no special occasion despite the small box he's hiding in his pocket. As the meal progresses, he signals the waiter to bring out a celebratory cake. However, just as he's about to retrieve the box, the White Tiger moms arrive, derailing his plan. He swiftly cancels the surprise and ushers Yeondu's mom out of the restaurant, much to her amusement. She's more than happy to escape the chaos caused by the White Tiger moms. The White Tiger moms meet after being invited by Sua's mom and director Lee. They are upset about how their kids are being used and demand an explanation. But deep down, they also want their kids to benefit from this. Sua's mom warns them to be careful because if their plan gets exposed, it could cause trouble for everyone. Later, one mom calls Sua's mom and warns her that Principal Choi is digging for dirt on her. Sua's mom isn't worried. She tells the mom they should find something bad about the principal first. Sua's mom knows the other moms don't really trust her and might turn on her. To stay ahead, she tells Director Kim to call the cheerleading instructor and make some changes. Instead of just Sua being the star, all the White Tiger students will share the spotlight. Instructor Nam arrives on campus in a bold and flashy way, catching the attention of some boys. Even Teacher Young seems impressed until he gets a closer look at her face, and his excitement fades. He points her to the principal's office, looking shocked. Inside the office, Instructor Nam quickly points out the White Tiger students and announces her plan. They will win the regional cheerleading championship in 2 months. Real King will handle the hard dancing and tricky moves, while White Tiger will do the simpler parts, like shaking pom-poms. Yeondu is angry and argues that Real King is doing all the hard work while White Tiger gets the credit. But Instructor Nam says it doesn't matter. This is what she's being paid to do, so they will follow her rules. After the meeting, Yeondu confronts Sua, saying she's trying to use Real King to make herself look good. Sua brushes it off, saying it's not up to them to decide. Later, Ha-jun asks Yeol what's going on between him and Yeondu. Yeol laughs it off, saying it's just a coincidence they keep meeting. But he admits he feels like he owes her something, leaving Ha-jun confused. Meanwhile, Sua is upset because she didn't do well on a test. She sneaks off to get a cigarette she hid under a brick. Just as she's about to smoke it, Dongjae catches her. She quickly throws the cigarette back under the brick and tries to walk away, but Dong-jae picks it up and quietly hands it to her. When she slaps it out of his hand, Dong-jae looks sad but still picks it up again. Before he can do anything else, Yeol steps in and takes the cigarette. He gives it back to Soo-ah but makes it clear he wants something in return. He asks her if they can all work together on the cheerleading team. Yeon-do sees Yeol put the cigarette into Soo-ah's purse. In class, Yeol pretends he lost his wallet. Teacher Yang decides to search everyone's bags. Soo-ah freezes, knowing the cigarette is still in her purse. Yeol grins, clearly planning something. Just as the teacher is about to search Soo-ah's bag, Yeon-do jumps in, saying Yeol already found his wallet. Yeol looks surprised but agrees, stopping the search. Soo-ah glares at Yeol, feeling betrayed. After class, Yeol tells Yeon-do he was trying to pressure Soo-ah into joining the team. Yeon-do doesn't agree with his method and says it's not right, even if Soo-ah deserves it. Soo-ah overhears and slaps Yeon-do, accusing her of being behind everything. Yeol defends Yeon-do, saying it was all his idea. Soo-ah warns them both to stop bothering her, or she'll fight back. Later, Soo-ah thinks about her past. She remembers a friend who was first in their class but took her own life. Her mom's reaction was cold, saying the friend only got attention because she was first. Soo-ah remembers how Yeon-do used to comfort her, saying grades don't matter. In the present, Soo-ah crushes the cigarette box and moves forward with her plan. During cheerleading practice, Real King does well with fitness, but White Tiger struggles. Soo-ah talks to Yeon-do, asking why she stopped Yeol earlier. Yeon-do says she knows the cigarettes are tied to bad memories for Soo-ah. Soo-ah gets defensive, accusing Yeon-do of pitying her. Yeon-do sighs and says Soo-ah is twisted, and Soo-ah snaps back, saying she'll attack Yeon-do where it hurts most. At basketball practice, Dong-jae is targeted by teammates, likely set up by Soo-ah. He's shoved and passes out, shocking even Soo-ah. Yeon-do feels guilty and apologizes, but Dong-jae reassures her that he's okay. Yeon-do finally snaps and confronts Soo-ah directly. She calls her out for using other people's pain. Soo-ah warns her again to stay out of her way, but Yeon-do stands her ground, saying Soo-ah should act like a decent person. As tension grows, the White Tiger kids start complaining about cheerleading and call their moms. Their mothers return to the school furious and demand answers from instructor Nam. Things get heated, and Principal Choi is left trying to control the chaos as representatives from the education office storm into the scene. They announce they've received a tip about the school inflating students' credentials and demand answers. Spotting the parents, the lead officer asks why they're gathered there. Caught off guard, Principal Choi stammers for an explanation, her eyes darting around until they land on a poster. She hastily improvises that the parents are there to support the cheerleading club's performance in an upcoming athletic competition. Backing her up, Soo-ah's mom plays along with the story, but things take a turn when the officer mentions that the event sounds perfect for television. He introduces a reporter who's covering schools that fabricate student records and declares Sevet High the perfect model for how extracurriculars should be done, with the education minister himself promising to attend. Principal Choi grovels to appease the officer, only to have her panic levels skyrocket. Instructor Nam strides past, loud and confident, as the same moms who wanted her gone now fawn over her. Principal Choi has no choice but to play along and laugh awkwardly, pretending the entire situation is a misunderstanding. Nam seizes the moment and sets a bold condition. She wants the authority to assign penalty points to the students. When Principal Choi refuses, Nam casually threatens to give the reporter an exclusive about the school's shady practices. Furious but cornered, Choi reluctantly agrees. Meanwhile, the Baekho moms regroup at a spa, their polished nails doing little to soothe their anxieties. Soo-ah's mom warns them that any wrong move could destroy their kids' carefully crafted achievements. They grudgingly decide to stay the course for now. Back at school, Principal Choi seethes as she watches the reporter interviewing students. She orders teacher IM to figure out who leaked the information. She also decides the cheerleading club needs tighter supervision and sets her sights on teacher Yang. Elsewhere, instructor Nam lazes in the Baekho classroom, engrossed in her manhwa, while the Baekho kids ignore her and focus on studying. The Real King members watch her in disbelief until Yeon-do finally speaks up, asking if they're going to practice. Nam, unfazed, says her day is almost over and gives them homework to learn about each other before sauntering off. Meanwhile, Principal Choi pressures teacher Yang into overseeing the cheerleading club, reminding him that his contract renewal depends on it. Yang quickly agrees, but she makes it clear that his only job is to protect Baek-ho from the real king's influence. Yeon-do and Dong-jae later discuss his removal from the basketball team. She feels guilty, knowing it happened because of her, but Dong-jae reassures her with his characteristic kindness. A few steps behind, Ha-jun asks Yeol about his interest in Yeon-do. Yeol grins, admitting that the more their paths cross, the more he finds himself intrigued. Ha-jun points at Yeon-do and Dong-jae, asking if their closeness doesn't bother him. Inside the school, Hyo-shik and Sung-woo playfully duel with mops until one smashes through a window. Outside, Yeon-do and her friends hear the crash as the glass rains down. Seeing the danger, Dong-jae freezes, but Yeol leaps forward to shield Yeon-do, getting cut in the process. At the hospital, Yeol's injuries turn out to be minor, though Yeon-do and teacher Young hover worriedly. Yeol excuses himself to the restroom, but Yeon-do quietly follows behind him. In his dorm room, Dong-jae sits huddled in a corner, his face drenched in sweat. The scene of the accident replays in his mind, tormenting him. He tries calling Yeon-do, but she doesn't answer, adding to his distress. Flashback, a young Dong-jae sits on a climbing frame as a little girl eagerly climbs up to join him. She grabs his arm, pleading for him to play. Frustrated by her persistence, he pushes her away. To his horror, she falls to the ground. Later, he watches her lying unconscious in a hospital bed, tears streaming down his face. At the hospital, Yeon-do catches up to Yeol in the lobby. Surprised, he asks if she's skipping school too. She explains that she came to thank him. With a wide grin, he steps closer, teasing that if she's so thankful, she should repay him. Yeon-do quips back, "I'm grateful, but not that much." Yeol enjoying an elaborate meal while Yeon-do watches helplessly, counting out cash to pay for his indulgent choices. He seems completely unapologetic, turning her every comment into a compliment about himself. Their banter is interrupted when teacher Yang calls Yeon-do. Panicked, she tries to answer, but Yeol stops her, rejecting the call with a grin. "Step 1 of skipping school," he says as they leave the hospital together. They wander through an indoor market, stopping at a snack stall. Yeol's eyes widen at the food, but Yeon-do reminds him she's already paid enough. Suddenly, looking uncomfortable, Yeol drags her away, leaving her pouting. The pair stumble upon a lively dance-off hosted by an ajumma, where a stereo is offered as the prize. Yeon-do, determined to win it for real king, jumps on stage despite Yeol's protests. As she dances solo, Yeol initially cringes but gradually relaxes, enjoying her spirited performance. The MC interrupts, declaring that the performance needs something extra, a partner. He offers the stereo immediately if they do a couple dance. Yeol tries to escape, but Yeon-do is unstoppable, pulling him onto the stage. Reluctantly, he starts dancing stiffly, but soon, with the audience cheering, he tosses aside his blazer and fully commits to the routine, matching Yeon-do's energy. On their way back, Yeon-do beams with excitement, holding a giant rice cooker instead of the stereo. "Third prize," she mutters, glaring at Yeol, who pretends not to know her. On the bus, she dumps the cooker onto his lap, earning side-eyes from other passengers. As the bus ride continues, they bicker over who should hold the prize. Eventually, they both fall asleep, Yeon-do's head resting on Yeol's shoulder and his cheek brushing against her hair. Yeol wakes first, smiling softly at her sleeping face. Quietly, he takes the rice cooker, letting her rest more comfortably. Back at school, teacher Yang is waiting for them at the gate, chastising them for skipping without informing him. He jokingly adds that he might have skipped with them if he'd known. Yeol holds the rice cooker, and Yang stares, baffled by its presence. Dong-jae rushes to meet Yeon-do, relief washing over him. She reassures him she's fine, proudly showing off her prize. Noticing a small plaster on her hand, he reaches out but freezes, unable to touch her. Later, in her dorm room, Yeon-do tends to her grazed hand. Hugging the rice cooker, she laughs softly, replaying the day's events in her mind, much to the annoyance of her roommates. In his room, Yeol is equally giddy, chuckling to himself. Ha-jun teases him, noting it's the first time he's seen Yeol so happy. The next day, Instructor Nam makes a dramatic entrance into the gym, moonwalking to impress the students. Dong-jae surprises everyone by joining the club, explaining that he wants to protect Yeon-do. Though skeptical, she eventually accepts his decision. Nam is disappointed the group hasn't completed their get-to-know-each-other assignment. She assigns them jumping jacks as punishment, casually relaxing in the sun. She reassures a concerned teacher Yang that the kids volunteered for the exercise to avoid penalty points. Yang can't help but be a little impressed. Later, the group finally tackles their assignment. Da-mi boldly asks Yeol if he's dating anyone. Smiling slyly, he glances at Yeon-do and says there's someone he'd like to kiss. Yeon-do flushes red, and Dong-jae innocently suggests she visit the nurse for her fever, adding to her embarrassment. Nam demonstrates a new cheer move and pairs the students for practice. Predictably, Yeol and Yeon-do end up as partners, while Soo-ah gets paired with Dong-jae. Amid the group's loud protests, Nam offers them the usual choice, penalty points or teamwork. They grudgingly comply, climbing onto each other's shoulders, but Dong-jae struggles to move. That night, Dong-jae sits alone in his room, staring at a doll. He tries to reach out and touch it, but despite his determination, he just can't do it. His hands tremble as sweat beads on his brow. The next day, Principal Choi stumbles upon CCTV footage showing a brawl between Baek-ho and Real King in the hallway. Alarmed, she panics at the thought of reporters finding it and orders Teacher I.M. to delete every trace of incriminating evidence. Teacher I.M. completes the task and steps away for a coffee break, leaving his computer screen open. The frozen footage shows the exact moment Soo-ah discovers the bloody towel tied to Ha-jun's earlier injury. Meanwhile, Yeol and Yeon-do are sent to the staff room to write a report. While Yeon-do excuses herself to the restroom, Yeol begins wandering and stops at Teacher I.M.'s computer. Noticing Soo-ah on the screen, curiosity gets the better of him. He plays the footage and watches her pick up the towel and head inside. The realization hits him like a truck. Overcome with rage, Yeol storms straight to Soo-ah. Cornering her, he demands an explanation. Soo-ah, as cold and calculating as ever, sneers that Ha-jun's self-harm isn't exactly a secret. Seething, Yeol warns her to stay quiet if she values her life. But Soo-ah isn't one to back down. She throws his threat back in his face, taunting that if he crosses her, she'll tell Ha-jun everything, just to see how it breaks him. As soon as Yeol leaves, Ha-jun appears, having overheard most of their exchange. His jaw tightens, and his voice is ice-cold as he demands she explain what he's not supposed to know. When she finally relents, her tone is venomous. "You'll regret it," she says. Night falls, and Ha-jun sits alone on the rooftop, grappling with his emotions. In the dorms, Yeol grows frantic when Ha-jun doesn't show up for roll call. He quickly texts Teacher Yang, asking him to cover for Ha-jun, and rushes out to search for his friend. Yeol's hope flickers when he sees the Baek-ho clubroom light on, but it's Yeon-do who exits. Desperation in his voice, he asks if she's seen Ha-jun. When she shakes her head, his worry deepens, and he takes off again, fear clawing at him. Reaching the rooftop, Yeol finds the door locked. Inside, Ha-jun stands near the edge, gazing down below, his face etched with raw emotion. He takes a running start, but stops short of going over. He collapses, tears spilling, the weight of his pain almost unbearable. Elsewhere, Yeon-do finds Yeol sitting dejectedly on a staircase. She sits beside him, her voice gentle as she assures him that Ha-jun will return. "That lie you told me, it was the truth," she says softly. Placing a comforting hand on his shoulder, she adds, "Don't stay out too late." The next morning, Ha-jun strides through the crowded corridors, his expression dangerous. Yeol overhears some Baek-ho members gossiping about him and realizes Ha-jun is heading to the principal's office. Alarmed, he takes off running. Bursting into Principal Choi's office, Ha-jun unleashes his fury, sending papers and furniture flying. The teachers rush to restrain him, but it's Yeol who manages to hold him back, grabbing him tightly and shouting for him to stop. Ha-jun breaks free, shooting a hard look at Yeol before storming out. Principal Choi looks on coldly, unaffected, as if she were made of stone. Yeol chases Ha-jun through the school grounds as a sudden downpour begins. When he catches up, Ha-jun turns on him, screaming, "Why did you do that? Why, when I already want to die?" Grabbing Ha-jun by the lapels, Yeol shouts back, "You want to die? Then die, jerk." But when Ha-jun quietly replies that he truly will, it's not a threat, it's a heartbreaking certainty. Later, Ha-jun storms into the Baek-ho clubroom, announcing that he's quitting. But he's spoiling for a fight, and when Sung-woo mocks him, Ha-jun throws a wild punch. Chaos erupts as the room devolves into a full-blown brawl. Outside, Instructor Nam calmly observes the chaos from the hallway. She stops Teacher Yang from intervening, saying the kids need to work out their frustrations. Yang is stunned by her apparent indifference, but she reassures him, "This isn't negligence, it's strategy." After all, she's recording everything. Their punishment comes swiftly, rolling in the mud under the pouring rain. From her office window, Principal Choi nearly spits out her tea at the sight, but quickly convinces herself she didn't see anything. Instructor Nam's unorthodox methods are driving her to the brink. As the rain ceases, the soaked students head inside, except for Yeol and Ha-jun. Sitting on the muddy ground, Yeol finally confesses, "I was afraid of losing you again." He admits that their current method of surviving, staying quiet and compliant, might be flawed, but it's the only way to endure the adult's cruelty. His words echo Jun-soo's warning to Real King. Voice trembling, Ha-jun responds, "That's why I'm struggling to hold on. Because of you." Later, the students huddle together around a table, still in their muddy clothes, sharing instant ramyun. Despite their bedraggled appearance, Yeon-doo's laughter becomes contagious, and soon the group dissolves into genuine camaraderie. Teacher Yang, passing by, is surprised to see them laughing together. In the showers, Yeol's mischievous side returns as he sprays Ha-jun with water before he even undresses. A playful water fight breaks out, and for the first time in what feels like ages, the boys smile, their bond restored. The next morning, Yeol and Ha-jun make a formal visit to Principal Choi's office. Displaying uncharacteristic humility, Yeol kneels to apologize for the previous day's incident. With visible reluctance, Ha-jun follows suit, lowering his head. Both boys plead for forgiveness, but Choi's self-satisfied smirk is maddening. Feigning concern, she remarks that informing Ha-jun's father about this right away might not be prudent. Her words drip with thinly veiled malice as she adds, "I'll think carefully about the right time to bring it up. Whether it's a threat or an empty promise is unclear, but it leaves the boys silently fuming." At Yeon-doo's mom's cafe, a charming yet awkward scene unfolds. Yeol's father can't seem to stop helping with dirty dishes, much to Yeon-doo's mom's bemusement. Finally, she sits him down, urging him to share whatever's on his mind. Hesitating briefly, he pulls out a small box and opens it to reveal a sparkling ring. "Take this," he says earnestly, "and take me too." His unexpected proposal catches her off guard. Though touched, she gently declines, thanking him but explaining she can't accept. The moment ends in an odd air of uncertainty. Later, Instructor Nam calls a meeting with the students and presents them with a map to her house. Her invitation isn't optional. Attendance comes with either the reward of her hospitality or penalty points for refusal. With collective groans, the kids agree to go. When they arrive, they're greeted by an impressive spread of food. Even Sua, typically aloof, can't help but relax. As they dig in, Da-mi heads to the fridge to grab drinks. Everyone calls out for juice, and she obliges, bringing back an unmarked bottle. The first sip reveals a twist. It's clearly not juice, and Da-mi unknowingly pours everyone a glass of Instructor Nam's homemade concoction. Yeol and Ha-jun exchange knowing grins as the group silently agrees to enjoy the treat. Hyo-shik raids the fridge for more, and soon, the only sober one is Dong-jae, watching the chaos unfold with amusement. Later, a sad and inebriated Sua intercepts Ha-jun on the stairs. Her voice slurs as she accuses everyone of being out to get her. Tears spill as she repeatedly mutters, "I'll kill them all." June crouches beside her and gently pokes her forehead, a light gesture that momentarily disrupts her rant. Through sobs, she admits, "It's like my head is eating up my heart. It really feels like I'm dying." There's a raw vulnerability in her words, and for once, her pain feels genuine. Ha-jun doesn't respond verbally but tosses her a handkerchief. With quiet understanding in his eyes, he leaves her to cry in solitude. On the veranda, Yeol finds Yeon-doo sitting peacefully, her face glowing with contentment. "I'm glad your friend came back," she says softly, eyes closed and smiling. "You were so worried about him." Her drink-induced dizziness makes her lay her head on the table, giggling as she invites Yeol to do the same. Their faces are now inches apart, eyes locked. Yeon-doo lights up in recognition of the moment. "One! I get up, right?" she asks, referencing a previous playful encounter. Both sit up laughing, but Yeol has a different idea. Smiling, he leans closer and says, "One. I do it." His hand gently cradles her neck as he closes the distance and kisses her. Later that night, Instructor Nam returns to find the Baek Ho and Real King kids completely drunk on her wine. She records them as proof and decides she can't send them home like this. Borrowing a van, she loads everyone up to take them back to school. On the ride, Yeon-doo falls asleep on Yeol's shoulder again, which makes him smile. Meanwhile, Dong-jae notices Sua looking sad and withdrawn. The van suddenly breaks down, and while Instructor Nam handles the tow truck, the kids wander off to find bathrooms or fresh air. Soon, Dong-jae realizes that Sua is missing. Her bag and phone are still in the van, but she's nowhere to be seen. Ha-jun, remembering Sua's earlier breakdown, runs off in search of her, looking deeply worried. Instructor Nam calls Teacher Yang for help. At first he refuses, but he later rushes to the scene when he realizes how serious it is. Meanwhile, the kids argue about what to do. Some suggest calling the police or leaving Soo-ah behind to avoid getting punished. Yeon-do stands up to them, calling them selfish and uncaring. Despite her hurt ankle, she insists on continuing to search for Soo-ah. While searching, Yeon-do twists her ankle again. Yeol teases her but ends up giving her a piggyback ride as they continue looking together. Ha-jun eventually finds Soo-ah near a quiet lake. She stares into the water and asks if he thinks it's cold. As she steps into the water, Ha-jun shouts for her to stop. Slowly, she turns back and walks toward him, looking fragile and lost. Ha-jun hands her his jacket, and they walk back together in silence. Eventually, everyone meets back at the van. Yeon-do and Yeol share a small smile, happy they found Soo-ah. The tense night ends with the group ready to return to school, a little closer than before. The kids barely make it back to school in time for classes. Teacher Yang looks just as nervous as the students as they sneak onto campus. To help them out, Instructor Nam distracts Principal Choi by performing an over-the-top dance routine. While she's busy, the kids run inside, but Yeon-do twists her ankle again and lets out a small cry. Yeol turns back to help her, grabbing her hand and guiding her inside. Afterward, Teacher Yang and Instructor Nam collapsed in relief, happy their plan had worked. The kids thank them for covering. But the celebration is cut short when a producer from 60 Minutes at Global News appears with a camera. He mentions reports of spec stacking and offers a deal, an interview in exchange for the footage he just captured. Later, in class, Yeon-do is distracted, replaying the almost kiss with Yeol in her mind. She can't stop staring at his lips. After class, she pulls him aside to ask what happened. Too shy to look him in the eye, she stammers her way through the question. Yeol, of course, teases her, batting his eyelashes and joking that she wishes they kissed. He leaves her even more confused about whether it happened or not. Meanwhile, the cheerleading team gathers for another meeting. Instructor Nam announces they'll elect a team president through a competition. Each side nominates a candidate, Yeon-do for Real King and Soo-ah for Baek-ho. The challenge? Each leader must choreograph a cheer routine, but with a twist. Yeon-do will work with Baek-ho and Soo-ah with Real King. Yeon-do, still distracted, barely registers the announcement. She's too busy Googling how to tell if someone kissed you. Outside, he recalls the night before with perfect clarity. He had leaned in for the kiss, only for Yeon-do to fall asleep on his shoulder. He chuckles to himself, whispering, "I was being serious." Meanwhile, Teacher Yang and Instructor Nam face the producer. They try to win him over with drinks, but he outdrinks them both. Instructor Nam resorts to dramatic crying, claiming she'll be ruined if the footage gets out. Her loud sobs attract the attention of nearby diners, including some scary-looking gangsters. Misunderstanding the situation, they threaten the producer and force him to hand over the tape, but he smugly reveals that he saved the original on his computer. Desperate, Teacher Yang offers to cooperate with the deal, an interview in exchange for the tape. The producer doesn't seem convinced and warns them to come back with a better offer. At school, Principal Choi is determined to find out who the whistleblower is. Teacher claims he has a lead on someone named Park Hyung-ja, and Principal Choi orders him to track them down immediately. The Real King team, now under Soo-ah's temporary leadership, prepares for their first practice session. However, it's clear that none of them respect her authority and are unwilling to follow her lead. Things take an unexpected turn when Soo-ah brings in a professional cheerleading team to teach them. The cheerleaders perform an incredible routine, leaving everyone stunned and impressed despite their initial resistance. Afterward, Soo-ah confronts Dong-jae about his fear of physical contact, telling him he has to overcome it if he wants to continue participating. She insists that she can't afford to lose the competition because of him. Meanwhile, Yeon-do faces her own struggles with the Baek-ho team. Unlike Real King, they're more interested in studying than practicing cheerleading. They make it clear that they don't care about helping her win the competition. While most of the team dismisses her efforts, Yeol appears conflicted, showing hints of sympathy for her situation. Elsewhere, Teacher Im searches for Park Hyung-ja, a name he discovered in his investigation of the whistleblower. He finds her in the hospital, gravely ill. Listening to the nurses' conversations, he learns that her guardian is a teacher at Savet High, further confirming his suspicions. Frustrated by Baek-ho's lack of interest, Yeon-do finds Ha-jun in the stairwell and asks him for help. When Yeol joins them, she tries to persuade him as well. Before they can discuss further, they overhear Principal Choi and Teacher Im nearby. The two adults are talking about firing Teacher Yang, accusing him of being the whistleblower who exposed the school's corrupt practices. Caught eavesdropping, the three students are confronted by Principal Choi. She warns them not to speak to anyone about what they've heard. Shockingly, she specifically targets Ha-jun, using his father's abusive tendencies as leverage to keep him silent. Her cruel manipulation leaves the students stunned and scared. Later, Yeon-do argues that they need to help Teacher Yang, but both Yeol and Ha-jun are reluctant to act. Yeol warns her that taking a stand could lead to her expulsion and tells her to stay out of adult matters. However, Yeon-do refuses to back down, saying someone has to do the right thing. At the hospital, Teacher Yang notices a gift basket left by Teacher IM on behalf of Sevet High. Realizing the danger he's in, he decides to take action. He contacts the producer from 60 Minutes at Global News and offers all the evidence he has against the school, including documents on grade manipulation, bribery, and spec stacking. He begs the producer to leave the students out of it, offering to do the interview himself instead. Back at school, Principal Choi bans all students from speaking to the media. She warns that anyone who gives an interview will face expulsion. Despite the threat, Yeon-do is determined to speak up and protect Teacher Yang. Knowing this, Principal Choi orders Teacher IM to find any reason to expel Yeon-do before she can act. Yeon-do later sees Teacher Yang cleaning out his desk. Despite his cheerful demeanor, it's clear he's deeply troubled. Concerned, she decides to meet with the producer and share her story. However, before she can proceed, Yeol shows up and drags her away. Furious, he tells her she's being reckless and putting herself at unnecessary risk. Yeon-do argues back, saying she can't just ignore what's happening. She points out that Teacher Yang was brave enough to stand up to the school's corruption, so why shouldn't she? Yeol counters that nothing will change, so there's no point in trying. Frustrated, Yeon-do accuses him of being too afraid to take a stand, just like the adults he claims to despise. Her words hit Yeol hard, leaving him speechless. At home, Yeon-do's mother urges her to stay quiet and avoid causing trouble. Though conflicted, Yeon-do agrees, promising to stay out of the situation for her mother's sake. The next day, the producer approaches Yeon-do again, but she declines, remembering her promise to her mother. Feeling down, she meets Dong-jae, who offers her strawberry milk to cheer her up. However, Yeon-do doesn't feel she deserves it and turns it down, her guilt and frustration weighing heavily on her. We finally meet Ha-jun's father, who visits with Principal Choi after a school meeting. He smiles as he reports that apparently Ha-jun won't be eligible for the school they chose for him, but Principal Choi looks nervous. Of course, it's just a Cheshire cat grin, as later Yeon-do accidentally witnesses him beating the shit out of Ha-jun in the parking garage. From around a corner, she calls to Ha-jun, which makes his father stop, for now at least. Yeon-do shows herself, and Ha-jun, bleeding from the mouth, walks away without a word. But she sees Ha-jun sitting alone in the school cafe later and asks if he's okay. He tries to storm off, but she stops him and presses some ointment and a bandage into his hand, so you won't be hurt. Before she leaves, she says that she's more loyal than he thinks, and she won't say anything. During her next meeting with the Baeko kids, Yeon-do doesn't even try to get them to practice, even when they ask her if she's given up. Yeol looks frustrated, but it's Ha-jun who stands up first and asks what he has to do, about cheerleading or whatever. But later, when he sees Yeon-do running through the rain without an umbrella, a new expression crosses his face. Oh no, please don't fall for your best friend's girl. Yeon-do runs into Teacher Yang and apologizes for being too cowardly to give an interview, even though it would help him, but he forbids her to give an interview, telling her to study her math if she wants to help him. He says there are two things she should find to survive in school: friends you do anything with, and adults who will be on your side no matter what. Yeol watches the rain and thinks of a conversation he had with Ha-jun, where Ha-jun had said that maybe Yeon-do is right. He'd hoped she's different than the rest of them. It reminds Yeol how Yeon-do had said he was like the adults he professed to hate. As Yeon-do practices the choreography for her mission, the rain continues. Someone drops an umbrella outside the room for her, and we see Ha-jun walking back to his dorm, umbrella-less and getting soaked, but smiling. Yeon-do takes a break and finds the posters she made way back when protesting the injustice of Real King getting shut down. It reminds her of how Teacher Yang has supported her at every turn, and as she leaves, she's too preoccupied to notice the umbrella Ha-jun left for her. She sits to wait out the rain, and Yeol finds her, though he denies having come here to give her his umbrella. But he does sit with her and apologizes for saying it was useless for her to get involved. She counters that he was probably right, and that she can't help Teacher Yang after all. She says that even though she seems happy all the time, She often feels bad for her mother and powerless before the teachers. She doesn't know what to do with her future, so Yeol says to do what she wants now, what her heart says instead of her head. That cheers her up, and she rewards him with a sunny smile in spite of the rain. Yeol offers her his umbrella but declines to use it with her. If he's alone with her under an umbrella, he may get himself in trouble. The next day in class, Yeon-doo's mind races as she remembers little bits and pieces of conversations, and it suddenly hits her. Teacher Yang is the whistleblower. Principal Choi comes to get him out of class, and he seems to know that this is it. So does Yeon-doo, and she rushes out to stop them. She says to Teacher Yang that she already found friends she would do anything with, but she just found the second thing, an adult who would be on her side no matter what. With tears in her eyes, she bows and thanks him. She heads outside and finds the producer and his cameraman still on campus. She runs to them and breathlessly says that she'll give an interview. From a distance, Yeol and Ha-jun watch closely. In the reporter's van, the PD reassures her that her interview will make a difference in helping Teacher Yang. Hesitantly, she admits that while their cheerleading started as a ploy for building specs, it has grown into something meaningful through their collective effort. Yeol and Ha-jun approach as the PD wraps up. When they confirm the interview took place, their anger flares. Yeol sharply points out that the PD should have denied any connection to Yeon-doo to protect her identity, as required by law. He warns that if Yeon-doo faces consequences, he'll take legal action. Later, Ha-jun tries to walk past Yeon-doo, but she stops him. With a warm smile, she invites him to share her massive stash of gummy bears. After a moment's hesitation, he joins her. As they sit together, Yeon-doo confides in him about the interview and her hopes of helping Teacher Yang. Sensing Ha-jun's unspoken concerns, she offers him a few specially chosen gummy bears, showing her care in the smallest gestures. The next day, Yeon-doo bursts into the staff room, searching for Teacher Yang, confused about why her interview is missing from the broadcast schedule. Teacher Im observes smugly as Yang, equally shocked, makes a desperate call to the PD. The PD dismisses him, saying higher authorities had the story pulled and warns Yang to tread carefully. Yeon-doo, standing nearby, overhears everything. Meanwhile, Teacher Im cozies up to Principal Choi over tea, receiving praise for catching Yang in a bind. Im, ever eager to please, suggests they fire Yang outright, but Choi stresses the need for a legitimate reason. The Council of Horrible Moms also celebrates their success in using their influence to bury the story. Sua's mom insists they can't stop there, arguing that Teacher Yang must face serious consequences for nearly exposing their schemes. Instructor Nam interrupts Teacher Yang's thoughts to remind him that today's mission involves choosing a team captain. Excited, she hurries off, leaving him to prepare alone. In the Baekho room, Yeon-doo lingers in a slump. Yeol notices her mood and approaches with his usual playful grin. Turning serious, he assures her that the broadcast being cancelled was likely for the best, as it could have put her in danger. Finally, the students showcase their cheerleading skills. The Real King kids, under Sua's leadership, execute a flawless routine. Yeon-doo's group, while less polished, puts on a spirited performance that prioritizes fun and inclusivity. The room erupts in applause, and Instructor Nam praises both groups for their efforts. Nam announces that the competition routine will combine Sua's complex moves with Yeon-doo's creative energy. However, she criticizes Sua for excluding Dongjae, emphasizing that cheerleading is a sport that thrives on teamwork. With that, Nam declares Yeon-doo the winner and the new team captain, to the delight of the Real King members. Sua retreats to the bathroom, sick with frustration. Her mother's scathing criticism echoes in her mind as she overhears her minions, Han Jae-young and Na Yeon, discussing the news that Teacher Yang is the whistleblower. Bursting out of the stall, she confronts them, her anger now focused on Yang. Later, in her private session with Director Lee, Sua vents about Yang's interference, blaming him for nearly ruining her future. Lee reassures her that the adults have things under control. Sua secretly overhears Yang making another phone call, where he insists he'll expose the school's corruption, even if it costs him his job. At practice, Jae-young struggles with a thigh stand, and Instructor Nam asks Yang to assist as a backspotter. Yang carefully catches Jae-young when she stumbles, but she screams, accusing him of inappropriate contact. The room falls silent as Yang stammers an apology, clearly shaken. Sua watches with a calculating gaze. Afterwards, Jae-young confesses to Na Yeon that she doesn't believe Yang meant to touch her inappropriately. Sua, however, seizes the moment, persuading them to use the incident to teach Yang a lesson. The three girls report the incident to Teacher M, who is appalled. Their testimony prompts immediate demands from the parents for Yang's dismissal. Principal Choi coldly challenges Yang, suggesting he's accusing the girls of fabricating their claims. Instructor Nam intervenes, defending Yang by explaining the physical nature of cheerleading and emphasizing that his actions likely prevented a serious injury. Despite her efforts, Choi assures the furious parents that the Ministry of Education will investigate the matter thoroughly. That evening, Yang discovers an article online accusing him of misconduct. As the scandal spreads, Yeon-do reads the same article in her dorm, horror-stricken by the accusations against the teacher she trusts. The next day, Teacher Yang enters his classroom, visibly burdened by the judgmental stares of his students. Their virtual group chat buzzes with cruel gossip about him. Yeon-do, seething with anger, shoots up from her seat, but before she can speak, Yeol stops her with a firm hand on her shoulder. Giving her a subtle signal to stay quiet, he strides to the front of the class. Facing his peers, Yeol confronts them with calm defiance. "Did any of you actually see Teacher Yang do what he's accused of?" His voice is steady yet cutting. He singles out the 3 girls involved, systematically dismantling their claims, and accuses them of lying to protect their academic standing at the expense of a good teacher's career. Sua attempts a snide remark, but Yeol immediately turns his sharp wit on her. With dark amusement, he mocks her transparent scheming, telling her that she always gets caught because her plans are so blatantly obvious. Her smugness falters under his piercing gaze. After class, Yeon-do catches up to Yeol, impressed by his boldness. She asks what compelled him to stand up for Teacher Yang when he previously seemed indifferent. Yeol shrugs, replying, "Because if I didn't, you would have." He pauses, then adds, "And you wouldn't care about the consequences. You'd end up hurt, and I can't let that happen." His words leave her puzzled, and as he walks away, his knowing smile lingers in her mind. Later, Yeon-do seeks out Teacher Yang and reassures him not to take the class's words to heart. She tells him that not everyone believes the rumors and that many, like her, still stand by him. Yang thanks her but gently scolds her for getting involved. When she hesitates, she explains that she has her mom and friends for support, but he seems to face these challenges alone. Touched, he admits her support means a lot, though it embarrasses him slightly. Before leaving, she turns back to cheer him on one last time. The school soon posts an official notice of Teacher Yang's dismissal. Yeon-do stares at it in disbelief. Yeol, though sympathetic, tells her that this outcome was inevitable, but Yeon-do refuses to accept it, insisting it's not over yet. At lunch, Yang finds himself ostracized, with students avoiding him and clearing tables around him. Just as his isolation feels unbearable, Yeon-do sets her tray down across from him. Dong-jae follows suit, taking a seat beside her, and moments later, Yeol and Ha-jun join in. Their silent show of solidarity warms the awkward moment, turning it into a quiet yet powerful statement. Determined to fight for Yang's reinstatement, Yeon-do and Dong-jae work on a petition. Yeol casually drops a thick stack of completed forms onto her desk, his quiet way of contributing. However, Principal Choi discovers their efforts and swiftly orders Teacher IM to track down the instigators. Days later, Yeon-do checks with the ministry, only to find no record of her petition. Even Yeol is stunned by the blatant sabotage. A formal meeting follows with the ministry officials, Principal Choi, Teacher Yang, and the horrible moms. Under immense pressure, Jae-young reluctantly confirms the allegations, claiming she felt angry and humiliated. Yang, filled with sorrow, takes full responsibility, stating that as the adult in the situation, he failed to protect his students. Principal Choi seizes the moment to paint his resignation as a necessity. Before leaving, Yang offers Jae-young one final heartfelt apology. Outside the meeting, Yeon-do and her friends wait anxiously. Yang approaches them with a bittersweet smile, expressing regret that he won't see them become seniors. His words weigh heavily on the group, who feel powerless to change his fate. Privately, Jae-young confesses to her mother that Yang never harassed her. Overwhelmed with guilt, she wants to retract her statement. Her mother shuts her down coldly, warning that the truth must remain buried to protect their family's reputation and the school's standing. Frustrated and remorseful, Jae-young turns to Sua, accusing her of orchestrating the incident. Sua dismisses her complaints, pointing out that a sexual harassment charge was always going to end in dismissal. She ridicules Jae-young for being naive, reminding her that personal feelings are irrelevant when specs are at stake. Sua retreats to the Bae-ko room, only to be confronted by Dong-jae, who begins practicing alone. Her frustration boils over as she accuses him of silently judging her for getting him kicked off the basketball team. Dong-jae calmly asks if she's trying to apologize. Flustered, she denies it. Then don't, he replies simply, returning to his stretches. His composure leaves her grappling with unspoken guilt. Meanwhile, Ha-jun finds Yeol sitting alone outside and tells him that Yeon-do was crying earlier. Yeol sighs, admitting he had warned her about trusting adults. Ha-jun counters that even though their efforts failed, he's glad they tried to help Yang. Gathering his resolve, Ha-jun announces he's leaving to handle something important. Ha-jun confronts his father, a powerful hospital director, and begs him to intervene in Yang's dismissal. Dropping to his knees, he promises to meet any condition in exchange for his help. His father coldly refuses, revealing that he had already helped cover up the petition. Crushed, Ha-jun leaves, haunted by his father's betrayal. At school, Yeon-do hears a familiar voice call out, "Hey, ugly girl!" She turns to see her mom waving with a teasing grin. Instantly, her face lights up and they sit down to chat. Sensing her daughter's worries, Mom asks what's been weighing on her mind. Yeon-do retorts that she's just like her mom, always sticking her nose where it doesn't belong. Mom laughs, admitting it's a family trait, and the two commiserate over the trouble their personalities bring. Mom grows serious for a moment and tells Yeon-do, "Even when it leads to regret and pain, I couldn't stop myself from following my heart. I told you to stay out of it as your mom, but now I'm saying, when your heart tells you to do something, you have to do it. So don't regret it." Yeon-do's smile grows, her spirits lifting. Mom pats her on the head, reminding her, "If no one else says it, you need to tell yourself you did well." As they part, Yeon-do walks her mom to the gate, where they bump into Yeol. He mouths a question at Yeon-do, "Is that your mom?" And she nods. Immediately, Yeol greets her mom with a bow and the sweetest smile. Mom is utterly enchanted by his charm. Once Yeol walks off, she gushes to Yeon-do, insisting she date someone like him. "How is he so adorable?" she exclaims. Yeol glances back at the two, a flicker of sadness in his expression as he observes their bond. Meanwhile, Mom returns to her cafe, still raving about Yeol's cuteness to Yeol's father. She casually asks if he plans to visit his son, given the trouble at school. "Next time," he replies nonchalantly. At cheer practice, Yeon-do struggles to focus her mind elsewhere. Instructor Nam notices and reprimands her, warning that her inattention doesn't just endanger herself, but also the team. She calls Yeon-do to the front and asks what cheerleading means to her. "It's not about standing in front of a crowd," Nam explains, "but about genuinely cheering for someone you want to give strength." The words strike a chord with Yeon-do, and understanding dawns in her eyes. Later, Yeon-do runs to teacher Yang before he leaves the school grounds, handing him a handmade invitation to the cheer team's performance. She makes him promise to come. As she leaves, she spots Jae-young and Na-yeon lingering nearby, clearly conflicted. Yeon-do confronts them, urging them to help set things right. They deny any involvement, but Yeon-do sees through their facade. "It's not entirely your fault," she tells them. "The adults wanted this outcome, but you can still fix it." Jae-young snaps, yelling that it's pointless. Yang is already gone, and nothing will change. As they walk away, Yeon-do shouts after them, "Fine! Let your guilt eat away at you while you go on living comfortably." Her words stop Jae-young in her tracks. The day of the school competition arrives, and the campus buzzes with excitement. The cheerleading team runs through their final rehearsal, though Yeon-do is conspicuously absent. Yeol finds her sitting alone, nerves etched on her face. He sits beside her and pulls out a banana milk. "Dong-jae always gives you strawberry, so I figured I'd go with banana. It suits me, tall and light, like I am." His playful comment earns a laugh from her, softening the tension. Yeol's expression turns serious. "At first, I thought you were just fun and amusing, but now I get angry, worried, and scared. Because of you, Kang Yeon-do." His words hang in the air, heavy with meaning. Yeon-do, oblivious to his feelings, awkwardly apologizes, thinking she upset him. Before she can pull away, he wraps her in a firm hug. "Be strong, Kang Yeon-do," he says gently, clearly savoring the moment. The scene is cut short when Hyo-shik interrupts, forcing Yeol to let go, though he takes it in stride. Embarrassed, Yeon-do quickly escapes. The auditorium fills as students and staff gather for the competition. Yeon-do is thrilled to see teacher Yang in the audience, trying to stay inconspicuous. Yeol sidles up beside her, playfully close as usual, and the cheerleaders crowd around, excited by Yang's presence. Instructor Nam convinces Yang to sit in the front, telling him, "Once a teacher, always a teacher." Principal Choi spots him and is visibly unsettled, but the performance begins before she can act. As the cheerleading routine unfolds, the team's energy electrifies the room. The crowd erupts in applause when they finish, but the team isn't done yet. Holding up signs with cheerful messages, the students slowly flip them over, revealing a shocking confession. "We lied. Each sign exposes the truth, retracting the false charges and calling for Yang's reinstatement. The hall buzzes with murmurs, and Suah watches in stunned disbelief. Yundu steps forward and calls out, "Teach, please come back." Overwhelmed by their support, Yang's eyes fill with tears as he stands frozen, unable to speak. Principal Choi panics, expecting backlash from the ministry officials. To her surprise, the lead official simply laughs, calling the students bold and sassy, a sentiment many share. After the performance, the team celebrates their success, buzzing with excitement over the positive response. However, their teachers quickly refocus them, pointing out mistakes and emphasizing the need for more practice. Teacher Yang, still emotional, worries about the potential fallout for the students, but Teacher Nam assures him this was a true cheerleading moment, one that embodies lifting someone up. Yun and Jae Young step forward to apologize for their role in the false allegations, and Teacher Yang forgives them without hesitation. All eyes shift to Suah, expecting her to do the same, but she coldly refuses, starting another fight with Yeon-do. Instead of celebrating, Suah taunts Yeon-do, questioning how long her happiness will last. Principal Choi quickly summons Yeon-do, Na-yeon, and Jae Young to her office. Knowing the stakes, Yeon-do tells the others to blame her entirely if things get worse. The team worries Yeon-do might face expulsion, but Ha-jun unexpectedly steps in, confronting the principal and taking responsibility alongside her. Yeol follows suit, citing the injustice done to Teacher Yang as his reason. Soon, the entire cheer team except Tae-pyung, hilariously silenced by Da-mi, joins the stand. Principal Choi, unwilling to expel her star students, relents. Reflecting later, she recalls the ministry official's comment, "Being fair in the face of chaos is what defines a true principal." He also mentions plans to reopen the investigation into Teacher Yang. Meanwhile, Ha-jun quietly reminisces over the bandage Yeon-do once gave him, smiling at the memory. When Yeol teases him about standing up to the principal, Ha-jun simply says Yeon-do inspires him to act. Later, Yeon-do, Yeol, and Ha-jun celebrate with Teacher Yang, sharing takeout jjajangmyeon in the dorms. Despite scolding them for breaking the rules, Teacher Yang enjoys the meal and teases Yeol and Yeon-do for their flirtatious banter. Across the table, Ha-jun watches with a subtle tinge of jealousy, though it's unclear if it's toward Yeol or Yeon-do. As midterms approach, Yeon-do and Dong-jae struggle to focus amid the chaos of competitive students sabotaging each other. Yeol, ever the opportunist, offers to tutor Yeon-do in exchange for multiple meals. Their study sessions in the laundry room stretch late into the night, with Yeon-do hilariously falling asleep mid-lesson. During one of their sessions, Yeol notices Yeon-do's lucky cat charm on her phone. She explains it helps her stay positive, joking that without it, her grades might plummet even further. Their quiet moment is interrupted by Jae Young, seeking refuge from Suah's antics. She jokingly accuses Yeol and Yeon-do of sneaking off for a tryst, but Yeol deflects with his usual charm. The next day, the Baekho and Real King students gather to study together, their competitive differences melting into camaraderie. They share notes, trade tips, and laugh. Suah, however, remains an outlier. Annoyed by the noise, she storms out of the room, only to experience a sudden nosebleed. Teacher Yang catches her and offers his concern, gently reminding her to prioritize her health. But Suah lashes out, blaming him for her alienation and demerits. Teacher Yang calmly tells her he's available to talk whenever she needs, but looks pained as she rejects his offer. During another tutoring session, Yeon-do fights off sleep, only to nod off under Yeol's watchful eye. He quietly shields her face from the sunlight with his notebook, and, as a playful gesture, builds a fortress of books around her before leaving a sticky note on her forehead, inviting her to a movie after midterms. Yeol's small, sweet gestures only deepen his charm. Later in class, Yeol anxiously waits for Yeon-do's response to his note. He sends her a text to check her phone, but with Teacher Yang hovering nearby, she can't look. When she finally does, her phone is confiscated. Panicked about losing her cat charm, Yeon-do chases Teacher Yang, leaving Yeol's question unanswered. Determined to help her, Yeol hatches a plan to retrieve her phone from the teacher's lounge. After hesitating briefly, he remembers Yeon-do's attachment to her charm and sneaks in, managing to grab the charm just before being caught by a teacher. Though he returns the phone, Yeol keeps the charm. In the cafeteria, their interaction draws teasing from Hyo-shik, who mock interviews them about their relationship, much to Yeon-do's embarrassment. Meanwhile, tensions rise as midterms approach. Yeon-do's hard work earns a comment from Teacher IM, though her scores remain low. Yeol, on the other hand, secures the top spot again. fueling Sua's frustration as her mother pressures her to reclaim the #1 rank. Sua confronts teacher Im, questioning her lower score compared to Yoel's. Her desperation leads her to steal his USB when it's accidentally left behind during a commotion. Sua discovers the midterm exam on the USB and quickly downloads it before discarding the drive. However, when she overhears teachers speculating about Yoel's involvement in the USB's disappearance, she retrieves it and plants it in his bag, framing him for the theft. When teacher Im confronts Yoel in front of his classmates, the USB is found in his possession. Despite his protests, the evidence appears damning. The students, even those from Real King and Bag Ho, begin to doubt Yoel's integrity. Only Ha-jun and Yeon-do remain steadfast, with Yeon-do passionately defending him, chastising the others for doubting someone they've come to know. The investigation proceeds, but Yoel's defense is ignored. His father negotiates a deal. Yoel will serve 30 days of community service and retake his exams later, accompanied by a significant donation to the school. Yoel, embittered, points out how quickly he was judged without being allowed to explain himself. As Yoel leaves the school, Ha-jun walks beside him, the only friend visibly supporting him. Yeon-do rushes to catch up, guilt-ridden and tearful, apologizing for the events that led to his punishment. Yoel brushes it off, returning her cat charm and wishing her luck on her midterms before leaving, his expression unreadable but full of unspoken emotion. At home, Yoel retreats to his room. His father follows, attempting to justify his actions by explaining that he was trying to protect Yoel's future. But Yoel is unmoved, accusing his father of handling everything with cold, detached logic. The lack of emotional support is the real issue for Yoel, and it leaves a deep wound. Later that night, Yoel ventures out of his room and is confronted by a painful memory. He envisions his younger self sitting alone in the dark, listening as his parents' argument escalates. His father accuses his mother of infidelity and strikes her, while young Yoel remains frozen, hearing every word. His mother had left shortly after, taking nothing with her and abandoning him for 2 days. That experience taught Yoel never to trust anyone again. A few days later, Yoel's father has lunch with Yeon-do's mother, sharing his frustrations about the strained relationship with his son. He confesses that Yoel refuses to share meals with him, but Yeon-do's mom cuts to the chase, pointing out that he hasn't tried to show Yoel that he believes in his innocence. She challenges him to change his approach, urging him to express his faith in Yoel instead of letting him feel isolated. Her blunt advice leaves him contemplative. At school, Yeon-do struggles to concentrate on her exams. The empty seat where Yoel used to sit distracts her, and she even catches herself writing his name absent-mindedly. Afterward, she wonders why he hasn't reached out to her. Meanwhile, Yoel spends his days completing community service at a retirement center. One day, he hears laughter and chanting, and looks outside to see Yeon-do entertaining the seniors. His somber demeanor lifts as he watches her from a distance, his eyes lighting up for the first time in days. Yeon-do approaches him and playfully scolds him for not being smart enough to avoid getting into trouble. But when Yoel admits his shaken confidence, she reassures him, promising to believe in him no matter what his rank is. Her words seem to mend a part of him, leaving Yoel visibly moved. Determined to clear Yoel's name, Yeon-do sneaks into the school's security office late at night to search for CCTV footage of the teacher's lounge. She bumps into Ha-jun, who is there on the same mission and already has the footage downloaded. When guards approach the room, the two quickly hide in a closet, stifling nervous laughter until the coast is clear. Afterward, they sit together reviewing the footage, but exhaustion gets the better of Yeon-do, and she begins to nod off. In a tender moment, Ha-jun tries to take her pen before it falls, but the gesture wakes her. She teasingly accuses him of being awkward, and their banter continues as they share jjajangmyeon, delivered sneakily to Yeon-do's dorm window. They bond over their love for the dish, sharing childhood anecdotes about their parents. Their chemistry deepens as they laugh and playfully fight over pickled radishes, creating a rare moment of lightness amidst the chaos. The next day, the midterm rankings are published. With Yoel absent, Sua claims the top spot. Her mother rewards her with lunch and a designer handbag, finally offering praise. But Sua's satisfaction is short-lived when she overhears classmates mentioning Yeon-do's efforts to find evidence to clear Yoel's name. Panicking, Sua rushes to the location where she stole the USB, realizing too late that a camera was pointed at her. Back in her dorm, Sua overhears Yeon-do discussing her progress with Ha-jun on the phone. Unable to intervene, Soo-ah feels trapped as her secret teeters on the edge of exposure. That night, Yeon-do receives a text from Hyo-shik containing the playful interview video he recorded in the cafeteria. As she watches, her eyes widen in realization. She whispers excitedly, "I found it! The evidence that will clear Yeol's name!" Across the room, Soo-ah freezes, staring at Yeon-do in shock. Yeon-do and Ha-jun meet up eagerly. She shows him the video, pointing out the time-stamped moment where Teacher Im places the USB on the counter at 12:58, nearly an hour after Yeol was seen in the staff room. Therefore, Kim Yeol didn't steal the USB. Yeon-do declares triumphantly, snapping her fingers. She offers Ha-jun a celebratory low five, giggling when he hesitantly joins in. Ha-jun suggests calling Yeol immediately, but Yeon-do insists good news is better delivered in person. They make plans to visit him later that night. When Yeon-do sneaks out to meet Ha-jun, she spots a teacher still awake in the lounge. She rushes to warn Ha-jun, but in their hurry he stumbles. The teacher's movements force them to hide, and Yeon-do fusses quietly over Ha-jun's scraped hand. Just as they breathe a sigh of relief, the teacher towers over them. Busted. Back at home, Yeol receives a picture from Yeon-do, her and Ha-jun punished for their escapade. He laughs quietly but can't help feeling a twinge of jealousy at their shared experience. The next day, Yeon-do chats with him over the phone, filling him in on their discovery. When she assures him that he'll be cleared soon, Yeol thanks her, not just for her belief in him as a top student, but for trusting him as a person. The following day, Yeol faces the principal, along with teachers I.M., Yang, and instructor Nam. Presenting the video evidence, Yeol outlines the timeline with his characteristic precision. Teacher Im argues that Yeol could have taken the USB after the video, but Yeol counters, after 12:58, IM's bag was in the classroom, under observation until 1:50. Furthermore, Yeol's alibi from 1:50 onward is corroborated by instructor Nam and the cheerleading team. When the principal questions how the USB ended up in Yeol's bag, he silently slips his watch into Teacher Im's pocket and asks, "Does that make me a thief?" The room falls silent as understanding dawns. Confidently, Yeol asks if he can now return to school. Outside the principal's office, Yeon-do anxiously chats with Ha-jun. He teases her for worrying so much about someone else's problem, but she dismisses his tough words, calling him a softie at heart. She playfully taps his chest, encouraging him to get in touch with his true feelings. Vindicated, Yeol strides through the corridors, the students buzzing around him with apologies and hollow declarations of concern. Teacher Yang addresses the class, confirming Yeol's innocence and the school's intention to find the true culprit. He offers a heartfelt message to any wrongdoer. When you've gone down the wrong path, all you need to do is turn back. If you gather the courage, I'll be there to help. His words strike a chord with Soo-ah, who sits torn between fear and the glimmer of hope. On the rooftop, Yeol, Ha-jun, and Yeon-do celebrate with Coke toasts. Just as Yeol is about to pop his can open, he glances mischievously at Yeon-do and starts shaking it vigorously. The sight instantly takes Yeon-do back to the first episode, when he tricked her and their not kiss. Panicking, she bolts and hides behind Ha-jun, who laughs, shielding her. Yeol demands revenge and calls Ha-jun a traitor, challenging him to pick sides. Of course, Ha-jun picks Yeon-do, but Yeol laughs, still believing she's stronger than both of them combined. Soo-ah overhears the students discussing Yeol's makeup test for the missed midterm. Concerned, she calls Director Lee, who meets with Soo-ah's mom. Mom is upset about Soo-ah's rank being threatened, but Director Lee reassures her that a makeup test is unlikely, as the results are already out and the other parents wouldn't approve. Principal Choi tells Yeol he won't be allowed a resit, but offers to omit the midterm scores from his final grade. Yeol rejects this, insisting the only fair solution is a resit, which Choi denies firmly. Yeol's dad arrives at the school with lawyers in tow, demanding action. Choi, caught off guard, tries to make excuses, which Yeol's dad easily agrees with. However, Choi says that Yeol is likely to regain his rank even without a makeup test. Yeol's dad is adamant that the issue isn't the grades, but the wrong done to his son. He demands the school arrange a resit. When Choi still refuses, his lawyers step in, proposing compensation for the unfair suspension and suing for defamation. Later, Yeol faces his dad, who offers a rare apology, admitting, "I should have said this first, I believe you." Yeol almost looks back but swallows his emotions and walks away. Yeol's dad then meets Yeon-do's mom, admitting that apologizing to Yeol was tougher than meeting the president. Yundu's mom offers him reassurance, telling him that 3 simple words, sorry, thank you, and I love you, are enough for a child to grow. He also brings up a proposal, promising to be a good father to her daughter. She promises to think about it. Hyo-shik brings the news of the lawyer's involvement to the clubroom, where Soo-ah overhears. In the staff room, phones are ringing off the hook with angry parents, and Principal Choi is having a meltdown. She demands Teacher Im take responsibility and stop Yeol from causing more trouble. Soo-ah is left alone in the clubroom when Yeol approaches her casually. He asks her how it feels to be number 1, and she replies, equally nonchalant, that it's been a noisy time, especially with all the drama over his resit. Yeol, smiling slyly, asks if she's worried about it. Later, Yundu finds Yeol and commends him for his revenge. He confidently brags about his amazing perfection. Teacher Im patrols the halls and gives Yeol a disdainful look. Yeol, ever calm, tells him he'll be filing a formal complaint, enjoying Im's retreat as he walks away with a Cheshire cat grin. Yeol invites the club for fried chicken, and though the boys hesitate, they join in. Teacher Im bursts in, but Yeol casually leans back in his chair, and Im immediately retreats. A flashback shows Yeol telling Im that the misunderstanding could be cleared up if Im stopped giving his friends unfair penalty points. Yeol then asks Principal Choi for a favor, to renew Teacher Yang's contract. In exchange, Yeol promises to drop his demands for a resit and the lawsuit. Choi, surprised by Yeol's concern for someone other than Ha-jun, agrees to consider it. Soo-ah opens her locker in the clubroom and finds a flash drive with a note, "The thing you're looking for." Inside the drive is the incriminating video. She quickly shuts her laptop as Jae-young and Na-yeon enter. Frantic, she demands to know who was just in the room. In a panic, she tries to destroy the video but is interrupted by Dong-jae. She snaps at him for always witnessing her worst moments. Unfazed, he suggests she come clean if it's so bad. She stares at him, then asks if he's been in the clubroom today. He admits he has. Meanwhile, Director Lee updates Soo-ah's mom, telling her that they've successfully blocked Yeol's resit. The conversation turns to how to smooth things over with the students, particularly after the sexual harassment incident. They still need to work together for the cheerleading competition. Instructor Nam and Teacher Yang express concern over the kids' performance, particularly Dong-jae's solo. With midterms behind them, Nam suggests a camping trip for more practice. To their surprise, Principal Choi agrees immediately, and Teacher Yang questions her motives. The shock intensifies when they learn Soo-ah's mom is covering all the expenses. Teacher Im smugly figures it out. Soo-ah's mom is trying to absolve herself for the false accusations against Yang. Choi shoots him a glance, clearly annoyed. As the team prepares for their camping trip, Yeon-do, as captain, gets ready early in the morning. Dong-jae unexpectedly shows up, surprising her. She realizes that they haven't spent much time together lately and pouts an apology, but Dong-jae pouts back. Laughing, he hands her a bottle of strawberry milk, and she sighs happily, claiming it's the best she's ever had. They head off with Teacher Yang as the rest of the team bursts with excitement. The mood is dampened briefly when Teacher Im joins the group, immediately criticizing their makeup and dyed hair. Yeol intervenes, and Teacher Im reluctantly backs off, much to everyone's relief. Yeol is a bit put out when he realizes Yundu has already moved ahead, and with the strawberry milk no less. Ha-jun, however, seems unfazed. Once they arrive at the campsite, Teacher Yang announces that the trip's concept is to go analog and enjoy nature, meaning they have to hand over their phones, which causes a chorus of complaints. He sends them off to enjoy the outdoors. Most of the group gathers for snacks, casually speculating about who might have framed Yeol. Jae-young notes that everyone's standing seems to improve now that Yeol is gone. Soo-ah, sitting apart from the others, watches them quietly. She begins to suspect Hyo-shik might have sent the video to Yundu, and from there, starts doubting everyone around her, including Dong-jae and Yeol. She's clearly driving herself mad with suspicion. Returning to her tent, she brushes past Yeon-do on her way out, a bit lost in thought. Inside her bag, Soo-ah finds a new pink note that reads, "Deadline. She has until tonight's campfire to confess." Alarmed, she now suspects Yeon-do as the note leaver and rushes off to find her. Meanwhile, Yeol helps Yeon-do organize the campsite, teasing her for being a pro at this captain thing. Yeon-do agrees, claiming she's like her dad in that way. It's the first time she's mentioned him, and Yeon-do admits that she doesn't talk about him often, but it feels nice to do so sometimes. Yeol mentions that he barely sees his parents, and Yeon-do smiles warmly, praising him for growing up well despite their absence. Yeol tries to duck her affectionate head pat, but they both laugh together. Hyo-shik arrives to find them goofing off, and Yeol gives him a lighthearted reprimand. Teacher Yang soon catches them slacking and orders the boys to fetch firewood. Yeon-do is sent to get more drinks, with the warning that the local shop closes early. Just before she leaves with the groundskeeper, Sua appears and invites herself along, claiming she needs something. Yeon-do scowls but agrees, and they head to the shop together. While Yeon-do shops, Sua notices a pad of pink sticky notes in Yeon-do's bag, the same as the notes she's been receiving. A hard look crosses Sua's face as she contemplates the connection. After shopping, Yeon-do heads to the bathroom, asking Sua to carry the drinks to the car. However, Sua surprises her by agreeing, even offering to take her bag. This unexpected gesture makes Yeon-do uneasy. Sua then hurries into the car, telling the driver to head off without Yeon-do, claiming she's waiting for another teacher. By the time Yeon-do returns, there's no sign of them, and the shop has closed. Realizing her phone is with Teacher Yang, she starts to panic. Back at the campsite, Yeol hears from Dami that Yeon-do went on an errand. The girls notice Sua's arrival, and she claims she was just taking a walk. But the look she casts at Yeol makes her escape seem a little too quick. Ha-jun, concerned, roams the camp looking for Yeon-do and learns from Dong-jae that she went with the groundskeeper. In her tent, Sua opens her bag and finds another note. Running away doesn't solve anything. You have half an hour left. She realizes in alarm that the note leaver can't have been Yeon-do. As the barbecue starts, Yeol and Ha-jun approach Teacher Yang to inform him that Yeon-do is still missing. Teacher Yang dashes off with the boys, leaving Teacher I-am in charge. Yeon-do, meanwhile, walks alone in the dark, frightened and tripping on the rough terrain. She scrapes her knee and slumps down, tears welling up. Teacher Yang and the boys find the groundskeeper's office locked. Ha-jun hops on a bike to search the area. With no cell signal, Yeol and Teacher Yang break into the office to use the phone. Yeol calls the groundskeeper, and whatever he hears makes him charge back, with Teacher Yang following behind. Yeol spots Sua stumbling around in shock and, in a fit of quiet rage, demands to know where Yeon-do is. Sua's feigned ignorance only fuels his anger, and he shakes her, shouting for her to tell him. Ha-jun, meanwhile, is racing down the empty road when he suddenly jumps off the bike and starts running. He's found Yeon-do. Tear-streaked and bloodied, Yeon-do breaks down at the sight of Ha-jun. She collapses into his arms, sobbing, and Ha-jun holds her tight, offering comfort. Gradually, she becomes aware of their closeness and steps back, her cheeks flushed. She stammers about how rough and scary the road was, and Ha-jun smiles softly, amused by her nervousness. At the campsite, Yeol confronts Sua, his voice shaking with anger. He accuses her of abandoning Yeon-do alone in town without transportation. Sua lies, claiming she thought Yeon-do told her to go ahead, but Yeol cuts her off sharply. He deduces her real motive. She assumed Yeon-do had the incriminating USB footage. You're wrong, Yeol tells her coldly. If anything happens to Yeon-do, you'll pay for it. Meanwhile, Ha-jun helps Yeon-do back to the campsite. After they take a spill on the bumpy road, Ha-jun uses his bandana to bandage her bleeding knee. Yeon-do, regaining her usual spark, insists she's fine. Instead of pedaling, Ha-jun pushes the bike while Yeon-do rides, creating a sweet and playful moment between the two. Elsewhere, Teacher Yang and Yeol search for Yeon-do by car. Yang presses Yeol for answers about his tense exchange with Sua earlier, but Yeol brushes it off, saying he'll explain later. Back at the campsite, the group grows increasingly worried. When Instructor Nam arrives and realizes the chaos, the students inform him that Yeon-do is missing, but now, they also notice Sua's absence. Inside her tent, Sua spirals into panic, remembering Yeol's parting words. Yeon-do isn't the one who sent her those notes. When Yeol and Teacher Yang finally spot Ha-jun pushing Yeon-do on the bike, Yeol rushes out, yelling at Yeon-do out of sheer worry. He scolds her for getting hurt, but his concern is evident as he fusses over her injuries. Ha-jun, standing nearby, feels slightly awkward watching their dynamic. Back at the campsite, everyone breathes a collective sigh of relief as Yeon-do returns safely. She promises to explain everything later, avoiding the immediate questions. Later, Yeol corners Sua outside her tent. He taunts her about what Yeon-do might reveal, watching as her facade crumbles. Sua maintains her innocence, but Yeol lays it all out. He and Ha-jun already saw the CCTV footage of her stealing the USB from teacher IM. Yeol confesses that he used Yeondu's sticky notes to bait her, confirming her guilt. As Yeol continues, Yeondu joins them, having overheard the conversation. She demands to know why Soo-ah left her behind, saying she would have let it slide if there was a valid explanation. But now, knowing Soo-ah feels no remorse, Yeondu declares that she's had enough. Soo-ah defensively retorts, "What are you going to do about it?" Yeondu calmly replies, "Watch and see." She warns Soo-ah that her actions will no longer go unnoticed, and soon everyone, even her mother, will know the truth. Though visibly shaken, Soo-ah tries to stand her ground, claiming she won't suffer because of someone like Yeondu. After Soo-ah leaves, Yeol softly asks Yeondu if she's okay, noting how uncharacteristic her outburst was. Yeondu breaks down, admitting she's tired of staying silent while Soo-ah continues to hurt others. Yeol smiles encouragingly and tells her to do what she needs to do, but to be careful not to cross any lines she'll regret. Later that night, Teacher Yang tries to liven the campfire with a few songs, but his melancholic tune only dampens the kids' spirits. Both Yeol and Yeondu keep an eye out for Soo-ah, who hesitates for a long while before nervously joining the group. Determined to turn things around, the kids crank up the energy by turning Yang's somber song into a cheerleading routine, laughing and having fun. Despite the lively atmosphere, Soo-ah remains visibly uneasy. As the campfire dies down, Yeol suggests playing the truth game. The kids balk at the idea of playing in front of their teachers, and Teacher Im, much to his disappointment, is nudged away with Yang. In their own tent, the teachers hold their version of the game, bantering about whose job is harder. Teacher shares a hilariously bitter anecdote about Principal Choi throwing objects at him while asking if she looks fat, hilariously clinching the harder job argument. Back at the campfire, the real truth game begins. Ha-jun is asked about his first love, but chooses the penalty, a heart doodled on his cheek, instead of answering. Yeondu gives him an encouraging thumbs up, and Ha-jun shyly smiles back, a moment that doesn't escape Yeol's notice. He grows visibly uncomfortable. When it's Dongjae's turn, Ha-jun asks about his dream. Dongjae quietly admits that he hopes to overcome his fear of being touched. Curious Dami asks how it started, and Dongjae recounts a memory of accidentally pushing a young Yeondu off a jungle gym, leading to her being unconscious for 3 days. Yeondu gently reassures him she's fine now, but the incident left Dongjae deeply scarred and afraid of unintentionally hurting someone again. The kids rally around him, with Hyo-shik offering heartfelt encouragement. As the game continues, Soo-ah attempts to slip away, but Yeol halts her with a pointed question. "Why did you ditch Yeondu?" The kids are stunned, their shock quickly turning to anger. Before tensions escalate, Yeondu steps in, diffusing the situation by calling it a simple miscommunication. Her calm but firm look at Soo-ah speaks volumes, and Yeol's approving smile signals that Yeondu is back to her usual self. Later, Yeol and Yeondu take a quiet walk together. Yeol asks if she feels better after what happened. Yeondu confesses that while she initially wanted to expose Soo-ah, she realized humiliating her wouldn't bring peace. Yeol teases her for making him the bad guy instead, but Yeondu knows he did it out of care for her, even giving Soo-ah a chance to come clean. Not long after, Soo-ah pulls Yeol aside to talk. She asks why he didn't reveal everything to the group. Yeol turns the question back on her, pointing out how Yeondu protected her yet again. He warns her not to take Yeondu's kindness for granted, as it won't last forever. Tearfully, Soo-ah admits she was desperate to avoid her mother's wrath if she got second place again. Though she knows she was wrong, she pleads for time to confess the truth to her mother and the school. Yeol reluctantly agrees, giving her 3 days, but only if she apologizes to Yeondu. After Yeol walks away, Soo-ah's expression hardens, her tears drying up. Her true intentions remain unclear. Meanwhile, Yeol reflects on seeing Ha-jun with Yeondu earlier, jealousy flickering across his face. Ha-jun, on the other hand, smiles to himself as he recalls catching Yeondu in his arms. Yeondu, restless and unable to sleep, steps outside for some fresh air. All three wander the campsite, lost in their thoughts. Eventually, Yeondu finds Yeol, who teases her, saying she couldn't sleep because she wanted to see him. Flustered, she denies it, but Yeol continues, joking that he barely got to spend time with her because she disappeared. His tone grows serious as he admits he felt responsible for what happened, and his anger earlier was more directed at himself than at her. Yeol finally confesses what's been on his mind. He doesn't want to keep his feelings hidden. Laughing at his own boldness, he tells her plainly, "I like you." Yeon-do is too stunned to respond immediately, and just as he prompts her for an answer, Ha-jun appears, cutting through the tension. Sensing the awkward atmosphere, he doesn't press, and instead suggests they all go for some late-night ramen. In the morning, the team gathers for practice, their movements more synchronized than ever. Instructor Nam commends their progress, saying they're getting good enough to make regionals a real possibility. The encouragement energizes everyone until they realize Sua is missing. Meanwhile, Sua sneaks into Yeol's tent, rifling through his belongings. She finds his tablet but grows frustrated when she discovers it's locked. As the kids pack up to head home, there's a bittersweet reluctance to leave the carefree atmosphere of the campsite. Yeol notices his belongings are slightly out of place and shoots a knowing look at Sua. Though he almost confronts her, he ultimately opts for a mischievous grin, letting her stew in her nerves. Back at home, Sua meets with her mother and Director Lee to report on the camping trip. She hesitantly starts to confess how she secured the top ranking and mentions that Kim Yeol was cleared and returned to school. Her mother cuts her off, sternly reminding her never to lose her rank again. Intimidated, Sua swallows the rest of her confession. After the meeting, Director Lee speaks to Sua privately. She reveals that Yeol has a copy of the incriminating CCTV footage and warns that the situation could escalate. Sua realizes Director Lee knows the full truth but has yet to inform her mother. Director Lee cautions that if things worsen, she'll have no choice but to tell her. Desperate, Sua admits that Yeol is using the footage to pressure her into confessing to the school. Director Lee insists this cannot happen, but Sua assures her she has 3 days to find the video and destroy it. Elsewhere, Yeol's father takes Yeon-do's mother out for a date. Over dinner, he presses her about marriage, but she says she prefers the simplicity of dating. Frustrated, he tells her he's ready to break up if marriage isn't on the table, admitting that being with her has made him a better father and person. He suggests they all share a meal together when their kids return home, leaving her visibly torn. Back at school, Sua escalates her plans, having stolen Yeol's tablet. She sits in the study room, frantically trying to unlock it when Yeol walks in, catching her red-handed. His intense gaze unnerves her as he silently revels in her discomfort. Later, during the team meeting, Sua attempts to excuse herself by claiming she's feeling unwell. Yeon-do seizes the moment, teasing that Sua always finds energy to study until her nose bleeds, but mysteriously falls sick when it's time for practice. With a sharp edge in her tone, Yeon-do reminds Sua that her time is running out, drawing a smirk from Yeol at her boldness. When the teachers arrive, Yeon-do boldly declares that Sua will stay for practice after all. The team works on lifts, but during one attempt, Ha-jun accidentally drops Yeon-do. Yeol rushes to her side, his protective instincts kicking in before anyone else can react. After practice, Yeol pulls Yeon-do aside, curious about her motivations. She admits she pushed Sua to stay for practice out of sheer frustration, ready for Sua's schemes to end. Yeol encourages her, brightly promising they'll find a way to make it stop, then shifts the topic to their relationship. Feigning innocence, Yeon-do dodges his questions, much to Yeol's playful annoyance. He grumbles about her casual closeness with the other guys, even accusing her of flirting with Ha-jun. Pouting, he dramatically declares she's only allowed to touch him from now on. Yeon-do bursts into laughter, refusing to indulge his possessiveness. As she walks away, Yeon-do giggles at Yeol's adorable jealousy. But her mood quickly shifts when she encounters Sua, who looks livid. Sua warns her to keep quiet until the 3 days are up. Unfazed, Yeon-do retorts that instead of threats, Sua should be focused on confessing before it's too late. During class, Sua claims she's feeling unwell and asks to visit the nurse. Instead, she sneaks away to retrieve a hidden bag and heads to the restroom. Teacher Yang catches a glimpse of a hooded figure in black and recognizes her as Sua. Suspicious, he quietly follows her. Sua slips into the boys' dormitory, makes her way to Yeol's room, and opens his laptop. She quickly finds the USB containing the incriminating video. Just as she's about to leave, Teacher Yang bursts in, catching her red-handed. Over her shoulder, he glimpses the video playing on the laptop. Attempting to see more, he steps closer, but Sua panics. She yanks the USB out, inadvertently dropping it onto Hyo-shik's bed in the chaos, before managing to shut the laptop and wrestle free. Yang sternly orders her back to class, warning that they'll discuss what he saw on the video later. Flustered and empty-handed, Suah retreats to one of her cigarette stash points to regroup. Meanwhile, her absence from Yang's class doesn't go unnoticed. Desperate, Suah meets with Director Lee, confessing that the situation is spiraling out of control. Director Lee assures her the video hasn't been leaked yet and advises her to return to school and beg Teacher Yang for leniency. She also instructs Suah to figure out what Yeol and Yeon-do want and suggests offering them money to keep quiet, a plan that's practically begging to fail. Elsewhere, Ha-jun and Hyo-shik are practicing trust exercises in their room, with Dong-jae watching. Ha-jun struggles, still feeling guilty about dropping Yeon-do during practice. He grows distracted and leaves when Yeol calls him to grab Ramyun. Hyo-shik notices Ha-jun's unusual preoccupation, remarking that he's never seen him worry about anything besides studying before. Left alone, Hyo-shik flops onto his bed but yelps when something hard jabs into his back. It's the USB Suah dropped earlier. Intrigued, he plugs it into his computer, thinking it might be something scandalous. What he finds shocks him: footage of Suah stealing the USB from Yeol's laptop. Unable to keep this to himself, Hyo-shik shows the USB to Da-mi, who grabs Yeon-do's laptop from her locker to play the video. As they watch, they realize this is the reason behind Yeol's tension with Suah at the camping trip. They're baffled as to why he hasn't already exposed her. Meanwhile, Suah returns to school, where Teacher Yang confronts her for skipping class and not following his instructions. Attempting to follow Director Lee's advice, she pleads for understanding. But her efforts are interrupted when murmurs ripple through the crowd of students around them. Da-mi, it turns out, has shared the footage of Suah stealing the USB with the entire student body, using Yeon-do's laptop. When Suah discovers this, she's furious, especially when she sees the source of the video. Yeon-do is horrified to learn her computer was used, and she confronts Da-mi, who defends her actions as the right thing to do. Even so, Yeon-do and Yeol are both deeply upset. They had given Suah one more day to come clean, and now that chance is gone. Determined to set things straight, Yeon-do goes looking for Suah, unaware that Suah is also searching for her. Their paths cross at the top of a staircase, where Suah, seething with anger, slaps Yeon-do hard across the face. "You broke your promise," Suah accuses, gripping Yeon-do's lapels as Yeon-do tries to explain that she had nothing to do with the leak. But Suah refuses to listen, her rage boiling over. At the base of the stairs, Yeol and Ha-jun arrive just in time to see Suah snap. "I'm going to kill you, Kang Yeon-do," she screams, before shoving Yeon-do violently. Yeon-do tumbles down the staircase, and both boys lunge to catch her. One of them succeeds, breaking her fall as they roll to the bottom. When the dust settles, Yeon-do sits up, trembling, and looks down at her savior in horror. It's Yeol. He lies unconscious beneath her, blood streaming from a severe head wound. Ha-jun and Suah freeze, horrified. Overcome with panic, Yeon-do desperately tries to wake him. An ambulance arrives to take Yeol away, with Yeon-do and Teacher Yang accompanying him. Meanwhile, the rest of the team curses Suah, except for Dong-jae, who notices her lurking in the shadows, consumed by anxiety. Principal Choi watches the uploaded video of Suah and reacts in horror at Yeol's accident, dreading the explanation she'll owe his father. Suah's mother is equally panicked, but misdirects her anger, yelling at Director Lee for failing to control her daughter. Her priorities, as always, remain skewed. Meanwhile, Yeol's father speaks with Yeon-do's mom about whether she's told her daughter about their plans to marry. She decides to wait until their meeting that weekend, explaining that their children's approval is essential. The mood shifts when Dad gets a call from Teacher Yang about Yeol's accident. Shocked, he rushes to the hospital. At the hospital, Yeon-do insists Teacher Yang not call her mom, not wanting to worry her over a sprained wrist. Yang reassures Yeon-do, saying the doctors confirmed Yeol will recover, as his unconsciousness is due to medication. Sitting beside Yeol's bed, Yeon-do tearfully admits how scared she was and pleads with him to wake up. Hearing her emotional plea, Yeol's lips curl into a smile as he teasingly asks how she plans to get him back. Yeon-do's relief is palpable as she rushes to fetch Teacher Yang, but Yeol grabs her arm, stopping her. At the same time, Ha-jun arrives at the hospital, frantically searching for Yeol. Yeol, now sitting up, challenges Yeon-do again, smirking, and she responds by leaning in and giving him a gentle kiss. But Yeol isn't satisfied. He catches her wrist, pulls her closer, and kisses her properly. Ha-jun walks in just in time to see the kiss, His heart breaks as memories of Yeon-do and Yeol together suddenly take on a different meaning. Stricken, he turns away, his pain evident. Yeon-do's mom accompanies Yeol's dad to the hospital but doesn't go in, feeling uneasy about meeting Yeol under these circumstances. Yeol is surprised to see his dad's concerned arrival, and Yeon-do diffuses the awkwardness by introducing herself as Yeol's classmate. She beams when Yeol calls her a good friend, prompting him to chuckle softly. Yeon-do leaves father and son for their reunion. Outside, Yeon-do's mom lingers but avoids being seen, pretending to head home when her phone rings. Mother and daughter narrowly miss crossing paths. Yeon-do, meanwhile, replays the kiss in her mind, overwhelmed with emotion. When Dong-jae calls, she blurts out how far from okay she is. Inside the hospital room, Yeol and his dad struggle with their strained dynamic. Dad clumsily offers to help Yeol with random things, making the atmosphere awkward. Yeol finally tells him to act like his usual distant self. Remembering Yeon-do's mom's advice to express gratitude and love, Dad awkwardly thanks Yeol for being okay. Sua hides in her secret spot, only to be discovered by Dong-jae. He calmly tells her to apologize to Yeon-do, who wasn't the one who uploaded the video, and to Yeol, who got hurt because of her actions. Sua nods numbly, already burdened by guilt. "I know it's my fault," she says, her voice hollow, before walking away like a broken doll. She goes to her mom's office, seeking comfort or guidance, but her mother is all business. She tells Sua there's no reason for her to stay at Sevet anymore. They're preparing for her to study abroad. In a trembling voice, Sua admits that she hurt someone and didn't mean to. Her mother brushes it aside with a curt, "It's taken care of." Desperately, Sua tries to confess everything, abandoning Yeon-do, framing Yeol, cheating on her exams. But her mother cuts her off again. "Those things are nothing." "Nothing?" Sua echoes, lost and disbelieving. Her mother tells her to focus on the Ivy League dream and ignore trivial distractions. She promises to protect Sua's precious specs, her intensity bordering on fanaticism. The weight of her mother's words crushes Sua. Her voice breaks as she asks if there's any end to this relentless pursuit. Unable to face Yeol, Sua stops short of entering the hospital. Instead, she calls to check on his condition. Upon hearing that he's okay, she breaks down, sobbing in relief. Meanwhile, Ha-jun waits in the hospital foyer, sitting quietly until he notices Yeon-do coming down the hallway. He watches her leave, lost in thought. Ha-jun finally enters Yeol's hospital room. Yeol, noticing how late he arrived, teases him but can't hide the warmth in his smile as he shares that Yeon-do had been keeping him company. Ha-jun's expression tightens at the mention of her, but his attention shifts to Yeol's injuries. Furious, he rails against Sua, but Yeol quickly warns him not to cause trouble while he's recovering. Eager to lighten the mood, Yeol reminds Ha-jun of a childhood promise they'd made, to tell each other first if they ever liked a girl. With a soft smile, Yeol admits, "I think I have one, a girl I really like." But before he can say more, Ha-jun cuts him off. "Tell me later," he says, forcing a smile, "when you're better." Back at the dorms, Yeon-do catches Ha-jun returning. Seeing her, he's reminded of the kiss and tries to escape, but she blocks his path. She asks why he didn't visit Yeol earlier, and he snaps that he was busy. But his soft nature prevails, and he can't leave without checking if she's okay. Amused, she teases him for worrying about her. Later, Yeon-do joins Dong-jae in the common room, where he shares that the other students have turned against Sua, leaving her entirely friendless. "They're calling her a monster," he says, clearly distressed. But Yeon-do, still shaken by Yeol's injury, finds it hard to sympathize. "I'm tired of giving her chances," she admits. Alone, Sua checks her phone, which buzzes relentlessly with hateful messages from classmates. The words calling her a monster, wishing for her death, consume her thoughts. She imagines the students' accusatory voices surrounding her, and she screams in anguish, unable to enter the school building. Aimlessly, she roams the streets, stopping to stare at her reflection in a store window. The words "I am" above her reflection stir something in her, and she's forced to confront her wrongdoings. Eventually, Sua visits the ashes of her middle school friend, so young, who had taken her own life. She recalls her mother's scornful remarks about the Sevet students' carefree joy and, sobbing, asks So Young if it's truly impossible for them to be happy now. That night, Yeon-do lies awake in her dorm, her gaze drifting to Sua's empty corner, her mind heavy with unease. The next day, Teacher Young grows worried about Sua's absence, especially when he's unable to reach her by phone. Spotting Yun-do sneaking off campus, he starts to intervene, but then stops himself. Instead, he texts her, letting her know she's been caught but giving her permission to leave, as long as she's back before lunch ends. Yun-do surprises Yeol at the hospital with a smuggled lunch, complete with twin banana milks. Yeol's face lights up with delight, though he worries they might get in trouble. Yeol can't resist snapping countless photos of her, finally leaning back in satisfaction. "I was dying to see you," he sighs, grinning. "And now I get to see you all the time." Meanwhile, Sua approaches the door of Yeol's hospital room. Through the window, she sees him surrounded by the cheer team, laughing and happy. She hesitates, sadness clouding her face, before tucking an envelope into the doorframe and quietly leaving. Outside, she crosses paths with Dong-jae. She admits that she came to see Yeol and owes Yeon-do an apology. For the first time, she seems at peace. As she walks away, she turns back to Dong-jae and asks for a favor. The two of them spend the day playing games at an arcade. Sua laughs freely, a rare sight, as she eagerly asks what fun things they can do next. Dong-jae hesitates, worried her mom might get upset, but she waves it off. "She won't be scolding me anymore," Sua says with a quiet smile, one that hides deep sadness. Yun-do tries calling Dong-jae but gets no answer. Elsewhere, he and Sua ride bikes along the river, the wind in their hair. They stop for ice cream, and Dong-jae mentions how Sua was always too busy studying to enjoy simple pleasures. She regrets not doing these things with Yun-do and vows to start now. She takes a deep breath and apologizes for using his fear of physical contact against him. Dong-jae is surprised. Sua isn't one to say sorry. She smiles faintly, admitting, "It wasn't so hard after all. I'm sorry, Ha Dong-jae." Back at the hospital, Yun-do steps out of the lively hospital room for some air. As she walks, Sua's envelope falls to the ground. Curious, she opens it and finds a letter inside. Her eyes widen as she reads, and she hurries back to her friends, her expression urgent. "Something's wrong with Sua," she says, showing them the letter. They read it together, their faces falling in shock. Night falls, and Sua and Dong-jae stroll through the city. She thanks him for helping her make good memories to take with her. Dong-jae, confused, asks why she's not heading back to the dorms. She explains she has one more stop to make and wishes him well, hoping he'll overcome his fear of touch. With a genuine smile, she says goodbye. Yeon-do, on the verge of tears, finally reaches Dong-jae by phone. He tells her he spent the day with Sua. Alarmed, Yeon-do asks where he is now, and Dong-jae takes off running to find her. At Sevet, Principal Choi informs Sua's mom that her daughter will face consequences. She'll forfeit the midterm and receive community service for her actions. Furious, her mom protests, reminding Choi of all the bribes and gifts she provided to ensure things like this wouldn't happen. But this time, Choi stands firm. "It's too late for me to protect you," she says grimly. Their argument is interrupted by a call informing them that Sua has disappeared, leaving behind a suicide note. Back at the hospital, Yeon-do, Yeol, and the rest of the cheer team crowd outside, desperately trying to hail a taxi. Yeon-do clutches Sua's letter in her injured hand, crying, while Yeol places a comforting hand on her shoulder. Sua's voice narrates the letter as scenes from her day flash by. "I'm sorry. Why were those words so hard to say all this time?" she writes. Alone on the street, she reflects on the moments Yeon-do helped her. How to say thank you, how to say sorry, how to reach out when I'm lonely. For me, everything was too hard. She remembers her relentless pursuit of academic perfection, believing it would lead to happiness. "Even if I was miserable today, I thought I'd definitely become happy tomorrow. Why is it that I became more unhappy? Why did breathing get harder? Why did I turn into a monster?" Her words grow heavier. "I despise myself so much that I don't have the confidence to keep going. Don't believe the adults' lies about sacrificing today's happiness for tomorrow. You have to be happy today to be happy tomorrow." She ends the letter with heartfelt apologies to Yeon-do, Yeol, Teacher Yang, and the cheer team. Finally, Sua comes to a stop in the middle of the street. She pulls out her phone and turns it on. Sua's mom paces anxiously in her office, waiting for updates. Her phone buzzes with a message from Sua. In it, Sua apologizes for not being the daughter her mom wanted, but expresses gratitude for achieving first place once, even if it wasn't truly her merit. Meanwhile, the cheer squad scours the streets, desperately calling out Sua's name. When they regroup, Dummy breaks down, blaming herself for what happened. The group is filled with guilt, recalling moments when Sua confided in them. Ha-jun reminds everyone of her heartbreaking words about her mind consuming her heart, urging them to search again. Yeon-do, racked with guilt, is convinced her threat to expose Soo-ah pushed her over the edge. She sobs, feeling helpless. Yeol shares in the regret, realizing how harsh she had been toward her. Elsewhere, Dong-jae sprints through the streets, searching tirelessly for Soo-ah. Finally, she steps onto a busy road, her expression distant and blank. Dong-jae spots her just as Yeon-do and Yeol arrive at opposite sides of the crossing. Yeon-do screams her name in desperation. A car speeds towards Soo-ah, horn blaring, but she doesn't move. At the last second, a hand grabs hers. Dong-jae pulls her into a tight embrace, conquering his phobia in the process. He breathes a sigh of relief as Soo-ah breaks down in tears, clutching him as she sobs. Across the street, Yeon-do and Yeol watch, tears streaming down their faces, overcome with relief. Back at school, the team struggles to move on as they wait for news about Soo-ah. They've been unable to visit her, and their spirits are low. When Yeon-do returns empty-handed from yet another attempt, disappointment hangs heavy in the air. Sharing strawberry milk with Dong-jae, Yeon-do can't help poking him lightly, testing his newfound ability to handle touch. But he admits he can't even remember what he was thinking in that crucial moment. Her smile fades as she wonders aloud when they'll see Soo-ah again. At home, Soo-ah's mom takes control of the situation, making plans for her to study abroad. She assures Soo-ah everything will be fine and insists this is the best way to start fresh. But Soo-ah lies motionless, offering no response. At school, a trio of students gossip cruelly about Soo-ah's absence, speculating about her mental health and celebrating the boost in their rankings. The cheerleaders burst in, surrounding them. Dami scolds them fiercely, while Taepyeong backs her up with equal intensity. One by one, the cheer squad admonishes the trio, pointing out that instead of gossiping, they could offer support or kind words. Hyo-shik reminds them they're all part of the same team, saying, "We're friends. If I hear this again, you'll regret it." Meanwhile, Principal Choi arranges Soo-ah's transfer with Director Lee. When she suggests dismantling the cheerleading club in Soo-ah's absence, Teacher Im steps in, reminding her that the ministry is closely monitoring them. Though subtle, his words protect the club, leaving Choi visibly displeased. The cheer squad feels Soo-ah's absence keenly during practice. But the harshest blow comes when Teacher Yang announces her impending departure to study abroad. The news leaves everyone crestfallen. In her hospital room, Soo-ah receives her phone from Director Lee, who tells her there's an important message. It's a video from Jae-young and Nae-yeon, and for the first time in days, a small smile crosses her face. One message after another lights up her phone. Dong-jae sends a video of himself successfully performing a cheerleading stunt, crediting her for inspiring him. Even Ha-jun, usually stoic, records a heartfelt message, encouraging her to endure tough times together with them. Soo-ah's smiles slowly grow into laughter. As she packs her bags to leave, one final message arrives. It's from Yeon-do, a homemade slideshow of their memories together, including silly moments like their Teletubbies reenactment. The last frame shows a picture of the two of them with the caption, "Friends, real." The camera pans out to reveal the entire cheer squad gathered in the background. Yeon-do's voice plays over the video, admitting she could never fully hate Soo-ah because of the memories they shared. She assures Soo-ah she's not alone and has friends who will stand by her no matter what. "You were the one who made this cheerleading club," she adds with a playful pout. Tears stream down Soo-ah's face as she watches. Yeon-do promises they'll teach her how to ask for help and insists she hurry back. The video ends with everyone crowding into the frame, smiling brightly. Touched by their kindness, Soo-ah tears up and takes time to reflect on her next move. Meanwhile, the team worries if Soo-ah has even seen their messages, or if she's ignoring them entirely. Without her, they lack a flyer, jeopardizing their chances at regionals. At the hospital, Director Lee and Soo-ah's mom arrive to send her abroad. Her mother clings to the delusion that nothing happened and insists that a fresh start will fix everything. But this time, Soo-ah pushes back. Acknowledging her mistakes, she decides to return to Sevet High and face the consequences. Furious, her mother warns that she'll regret it, but Soo-ah stands firm. She's done living by someone else's plan and vows to succeed through her own abilities. Back at school, Yeon-do greets Soo-ah with a stern but hopeful expression. Leading her into the practice room, Soo-ah hesitates, terrified, as the team falls silent. Tentatively, she apologizes to the group for her actions and expresses gratitude for their support. She particularly apologizes to Yeol, Dong-ha, and Yeon-do, knowing sorry isn't enough. Yeondu acknowledges that forgiveness will take time and declares that, as captain, Soo-ah's punishment will be cleaning the practice room for a month. The lighthearted consequence breaks the ice, and the team erupts in laughter, teasing Soo-ah for scaring them. With that, the team is whole again, ready to prepare for regionals. Soo-ah faces additional school punishment in the form of volunteer work, which she accepts without complaint. Yeondu playfully thumps her on the forehead, promising many more thumps before she feels they're even. That night, as Soo-ah sleeps peacefully, her roommates smile, relieved to see her truly at ease for the first time. During study hall, Yeondu tries to grab Yeol's attention, but he ignores her. Frustrated, she leaves a note on his forehead, complaining about his unfulfilled promise to take her to a movie. Yeondu later seeks Ha-jun's advice about her friend, who is pursuing a guy. Ha-jun shyly admits that he'd find such attention endearing, leaving Yeondu flustered. Yeol enlists Ha-jun's help for a secret project, eventually revealing his relationship with Yeondu. Though Ha-jun struggles to hide his feelings, he wishes them well. However, Yeol senses something is off as Ha-jun retreats in discomfort. Later, Yeol surprises Yeondu in the club room with a makeshift movie date, complete with snacks and a cozy setup. The two snuggle up, enjoying their time together. Downstairs, Ha-jun sits alone, conflicted. As he contemplates deleting a photo of himself and Yeondu, he ultimately decides to keep it, holding on to the bittersweet memory. As the boys pack to leave for break, Ha-jun stays behind, claiming his family's chauffeur will handle it. Meanwhile, Dong-jae suggests grabbing burgers with Yeondu on their way home, sparking Yeol's jealousy. He reluctantly tags along, sulking as Dong-jae enjoys his newfound comfort with physical affection. During their meal, Yeol pointedly asks Yeondu if she plans to keep hanging out with Dong-jae. Dong-jae, catching on, offers to give them space but cheekily invites himself to dinner at Yeondu's house later. Yeol's protests escalate when Yeondu laughs it off. That evening, Ha-jun, still at school, stares at his report card, likely disappointed by his grades. He recalls his father's harsh words about wasting time on friends and cheerleading. When a call from home comes, Ha-jun ignores it, stewing in his frustrations. Yeol, back to his playful boyfriend ways, shields Yeondu from the rain with an umbrella as the trio heads home. Dong-jae, ever helpful, does the same on her other side. Yeondu tells Dong-jae he can't join her for dinner, and Yeol grumbles again about his lack of alone time with Yeondu. From another direction, Yeondu's mom and Yeol's dad also walk home together. Mom invites Dad over to take food for Yeol, and they discuss plans to tell their kids about their relationship. Once Dong-jae is dropped off, Yeol beams, finally alone with Yeondu. He grabs her hand, delighted, but their joy is short-lived. Just steps from Yeondu's house, they run into their parents, also holding hands. The awkward realization leaves everyone stunned, and the adults quickly separate to talk to their respective children. At home, Yeondu panics, grilling her mom about dating Yeol's dad. Though Mom tries to downplay it, Yeondu saw them holding hands and forced the truth out of her. Meanwhile, Yeol angrily confronts his father. When Dad says he values Yeol's opinion, Yeol challenges him, asking if he would break up with Mom if Yeol objected. Both Yeondu and Yeol are deeply unsettled. Yeondu envisions a future where they're step-siblings, unable to act on their feelings, and they decide to return to school early without telling their parents. At school, Ha-jun notices Yeol's return and learns about their parents' relationship. Yeol confesses that the thought of losing Yeondu as a romantic partner hurts deeply, confirming his feelings for her. Ha-jun comforts Yeol, but looks heartbroken himself. Later, Yeondu shares her friend's problem with Ha-jun, unaware he already knows. He advises her to follow her heart, though he struggles to heed his own advice. After she thanks him and leaves, he berates himself for his unspoken feelings. Determined to take control, Yeondu and Yeol devise a plan. They each call their respective parents for a meeting, putting them on edge. But the parents are taken aback when Yeol arrives to talk to Mom, flowers in hand, while Yeondu seeks out Dad. Yeol is adorably anxious when he meets Yeondu's mom, but wastes no time, introducing himself as her daughter's boyfriend. Over at his meeting with Yeol's dad, Yeondu does the same, revealing not only their relationship but also how Yeol ended up hospitalized, saving her from injury. This revelation surprises Dad, who has always seen Yeol as selfish. Yeondu counters by explaining how thoughtful Yeol truly is, sharing that he's helped her become less self-centered. Her honesty makes an impression. Meanwhile, Yeol wins Mom over with his earnestness. When she asks why he likes Yeon-do, he says it started because she was fun, but now her belief in him has inspired him to believe in others. Touched, Mom declares Yeol a good boyfriend, her smile showing her approval. Back at school, Yeon-do and Yeol share their progress. Yeol feels confident that their parents will reconsider marriage, but Yeon-do seems conflicted, guilty about potentially depriving her mom of happiness. Their parents are equally torn, grappling with whether they should give each other up for their children's sake. Yeol's dad expresses a quiet jealousy toward Yeon-do for reaching his son in ways he couldn't, while Yeon-do's mom credits her knack for relationships to her daughter. Despite their reflections, neither has a solution. Meanwhile, trouble brews elsewhere. Ha-jun's father meets with the chairman of the education office, who reassures him about Sevet High's investigation, but warns that the cheerleading club is a focal point. Ha-jun's father grows concerned about a development fund, but receives a vague suggestion to consider pulling his son out of cheerleading. Ha-jun's father later confronts him at school, furious over his slipping grades. Despite Ha-jun's polite request to remain on the team until after regionals, his father lashes out violently, leaving him battered and bruised. Yeol, sensing something's wrong when Ha-jun misses cheerleading practice, decides he can no longer stand by. He rushes to Ha-jun's home but doesn't find him. Back at school, Yeon-do spots Ha-jun alone, his injuries painfully evident. When Yeon-do reaches for him, Ha-jun pulls away, embarrassed and angry. She tries to persuade him to seek treatment, but his pride and shame get in the way. Yeon-do finally agrees to back off if he gets help, though her parting words reveal her deep concern. Her sincerity strikes a chord, and Ha-jun suddenly pulls her into a tearful back hug. "Don't go," he pleads softly, his voice breaking. "Stay with me for a little bit. This is too painful." Moved by his vulnerability, Yeon-do takes Ha-jun to the infirmary. Unable to find medicine, she sits with him, offering to call Yeol. But Ha-jun, unwilling for his friend to see him in this state, refuses. Yeol, however, finds them anyway. Without hesitation, he retrieves the medicine. Despite his growing discomfort seeing Yeon-do and Ha-jun together, Yeol stays composed, even commenting on Yeon-do's red eyes. Gently, he suggests she rest and sends her off, masking his feelings. Left alone with Ha-jun, Yeol treats him as he's done countless times before. His care softens Ha-jun's guarded demeanor. When Yeol asks if his father's anger stemmed from his report card, Ha-jun doesn't answer directly, but instead apologizes for everything. On her way back to her dorm, Yeon-do can't help but think about the backpack. She rationalizes it as Ha-jun being emotional after his father's abuse, brushing off any deeper significance. Meanwhile, Yeol sits alone on the stairs, clearly troubled. It becomes apparent that he saw Ha-jun hugging Yeon-do and pleading with her not to leave. The next time Yeol and Yeon-do meet, his usual crinkly-eyed smile takes a moment to appear. Despite the tension lingering within him, he manages to mask his feelings with his usual charm. He flirts and offers to tutor her again, teasing that he'll help her ranking improve one more point. But as usual, he playfully demands food as payment. Yeon-do laughs but doesn't notice the faint flicker of doubt in his eyes. At cheerleading practice, Instructor Nam notices Ha-jun's stiffness and warns him to be extra careful. As a base, any misstep on his part could injure someone else. However, before practice begins, Teacher Im summons Ha-jun to Principal Choi's office. There, Principal Choi informs him that his father is forcing him to quit the team. Worse still, if he refuses. His father has threatened to use his influence with the school board chairman to have both Teacher Yang and Instructor Kim fired. Principal Choi, perceptive as ever, notes to Teacher IM that this abrupt move is likely tied to the upcoming inspection. Ha-jun returns to practice, but instead of joining his friends, he quietly watches from the sidelines. His father's harsh words echo in his mind. If he doesn't comply, his father will ensure the entire cheerleading team is dissolved. To protect his friends' dreams and safeguard his teachers' jobs, Ha-jun decides to quit. Instructor Nam confronts him about his sudden decision, especially with regionals so close. Ha-jun brushes it off, claiming he simply doesn't want to do it anymore. The rest of the team is stunned when Instructor Nam announces the news, explaining that they'll need to adjust their positions to account for Ha-jun's departure. Nobody is more upset than Yeol. Determined to get answers, he storms off in search of Ha-jun, eventually finding him sitting alone in the gym. Yeol confronts his best friend, demanding to know the real reason for his sudden departure. Ha-jun attempts to deflect, claiming he wants to focus on his studies, but Yeol isn't fooled. His frustration boils over, and he furiously shouts, accusing Ha-jun of leaving because of Yeon-do. Taken aback, Ha-jun stares at Yeol, unsure how to respond. But Yeol doesn't hold back, his voice trembling with anger and hurt as he demands, I'm asking if it's because of Kang Yeon-do. His frustration boils over as he accuses Ha-jun of running away and being a coward. Ha-jun, equally provoked, admits that Yeon-do might be part of the reason and questions what else he could do after seeing Yeol step in to protect her, especially after sharing how much he liked her. Yeol, overcome with emotion, insists that Ha-jun should have told him. Ha-jun dismisses the idea, pointing out that nothing would have changed, his voice heavy with resignation. He tells Yeol to stop worrying about him and walks away. Left alone, Ha-jun's frustration erupts in an empty classroom. He punches a mirror, shattering the glass in a desperate attempt to vent his pain. Yeon-do later finds him near the dorms and notices his injured hand. She gently takes it, asking if it hurts, but Ha-jun pulls away, saying the pain is unavoidable. With a weary expression, he tells her not to follow him and walks off, leaving her concerned but unable to intervene. That night, both Yeol and Ha-jun struggle to sleep. The next day, tension lingers between them. During lunch, Ha-jun leaves quickly, and Yeol watches him go, conflicted. When Yeon-do approaches for their usual rooftop lunch, Yeol declines, saying he can't join her. Yeol finds Ha-jun in the auditorium and sits beside him. Breaking the silence, he admits he can't walk away from Yeon-do but also can't bear to lose Ha-jun. Ha-jun brushes it off, insisting he'll deal with his feelings, but Yeol questions how either of them can move forward. They agree to give each other space to figure things out. Later, Ha-jun receives a call from his father, who reminds him to keep his promise to stay out of cheerleading as the school braces for a ministry investigation. Meanwhile, his father shares tea with Chairman Lee, the head of the school board. They relish their plan's success, confident the investigation will dismantle the cheer club and divert attention from their own corrupt dealings. At school, Sua is seen mopping the hallways, an act that unsettles her mother. Sua, however, is far calmer than before, explaining that she's doing well with her studies and friends, and asking her mother to step back and let her finish high school without further interference. Her mother reluctantly leaves, clearly discontented. Sua's mother later meets with Principal Choi, assuring her that the evidence of their spec-building scheme has been destroyed, and the other parents have been convinced to support their version of events. Choi seems momentarily reassured, until the hearing. During the investigation, the other mothers turn against them, claiming they opposed the scheme from the start. They even invite the committee to review CCTV footage to back up their claims. The inspector, unimpressed, questions the coinciding dates of donations and the club's formation, leaving Principal Choi and Sua's mother scrambling to defend themselves. Meanwhile, the cheer team celebrates a successful run-through of their routine, but their optimism is shattered when the spec-building scandal breaks online. Da-mi rushes in with devastating news. The cheerleading team is being disbanded, and the original clubs, Baekho and Real King, will be reinstated. The announcement hits the team hard. Sua realizes the timing is tied to the ministry investigation, and Teacher Yang heads off to confront the administration as the team faces the potential end of their journey. Sua calls her mother, seeking reassurance. Her mother promises to handle everything and insists she won't go down without a fight. But after hanging up, she looks visibly shaken, clutching a summons letter with growing unease. Meanwhile, Teacher Eam helps Principal Choi pack her belongings. Choi, clearly fired, lashes out at him, accusing him of betrayal. Eam, however, calmly reveals that he's been appointed as the interim principal by Chairman Lee, further fueling her belief that he was the one who exposed her actions to the ministry. As this unfolds, Teacher Yang and Instructor Nam confront Principal Choi about the disbandment of the cheerleading team. Choi dismisses their concerns, blaming the scandal on the cheer club's use as a spec-building tool. Nam doesn't hold back, pointing out the harm done to the students who worked tirelessly only to have everything stripped away. Im interjects to remind them that Choi no longer has the power to fix anything. The fallout extends further. Instructor Nam has also lost her position. Over drinks, Teacher Yang asks if she's angry, but Nam focuses instead on the positive. She expresses pride in the kids, noting how they've grown through cheerleading. Yang reflects on how much the experience changed them, bringing joy and camaraderie to students who had only known relentless competition. Despite her optimism, both teachers are visibly burdened by the students' impending disappointment. Yang delivers the heartbreaking news to the team. Instructor Nam is leaving due to a ministry decision, and there's no recourse. Even with regionals just days away, Nam, ever cheerful, encourages them to let go of the difficult moments and hold on to the happy memories. She thanks them for making her time with them so meaningful, and reminds them that true cheerleading is about genuinely supporting each other. Refusing to make a tearful farewell, she leaves with a confident wave. But moments later, the students and teacher Yang rush out after her, shouting their gratitude in unison. Nam smiles warmly, clearly moved despite her composed demeanor. Ha-jun, seeing the disbandment notice for the first time, storms home to confront his father. Overhearing him boasting on the phone about the club's dissolution, Ha-jun bursts into his office. He demands to know if his father was behind the decision, anger and disbelief evident in his voice. His father, unrepentant, dismisses him, claiming the club's demise was inevitable and ordering Ha-jun to leave. Ha-jun retorts, admitting that he quit cheerleading because he thought it would protect his friends and the team. His father's betrayal cuts deeply, and when the man insists his actions were for Ha-jun's benefit, Ha-jun accuses him of acting out of fear of exposure. His father's rage erupts, and he strikes Ha-jun, but something shifts in Ha-jun's gaze. Back at school, Yeon-do asks Yeol if life at 18 is this difficult for everyone. Yeol agrees, likening their struggles to an endless chain of problems. Yeon-do reflects on how she thought following her heart would be enough, but even that seems insufficient in the face of so much uncertainty. The team gathers to discuss their options, but the situation feels hopeless. Even the Baekho parents lack the influence to reverse the ministry's decision, and the students are warned against any mention of cheerleading. Yeol reasons that appearing at regionals now would only tie them to the scandal, complicating things further. Yeon-do speaks up, reminding them how they initially resisted cheerleading but came to love it and grow closer as a group. The sudden loss stings deeply, but she urges everyone to take a few days to reflect on what they want to do next. In class, Yeol and Yeon-do glance at Ha-jun's empty desk, their concern evident. Teacher Yang informs them that Ha-jun is staying home, with his father calling in sick for him. Knowing how Ha-jun's father operates, the pair grow increasingly worried. At home, Ha-jun finds himself locked in his room. His father confiscated his phone and ordered him to stay put, claiming it's for his own good. He announces plans to send Ha-jun abroad, insisting that studying overseas might cure his weakness. Ha-jun listens in silence, his frustration mounting. The doorbell rings and Ha-jun overhears the housekeeper telling someone he isn't home. Outside, Yeol tries to reason with her, but she dismisses him hastily. Undeterred, Yeol steps inside to face Ha-jun's father directly. Calmly but firmly, he requests Ha-jun's return to school. When the conversation shifts to cheerleading, Ha-jun's father reveals that he was the one who made Ha-jun quit. Yeol's composure falters at the revelation, but quickly recovers. Looking Ha-jun's father in the eye, Yeol states, even as a parent, you don't have the right to abuse your child. That's not love. His words hang in the air before he turns and leaves. Later, Yeon-do leaves the dorm, lost in thought. Sua approaches her and asks why she isn't rallying everyone to compete, as she might have done before. Sua even offers to help convince the team. Yeon-do admits that her impulsive self might have done just that, but now she's worried about the consequences for others. Sua encourages her, take your time, but Kang Yeon-do, don't give up. Don't run away either. The night before regionals, Yeon-do gathers the team for one last meeting. She tells them she'll be at the venue tomorrow, ready to cheer alongside them if they choose to come. However, she reminds them not to hold grudges against those who decide otherwise. Later, in a quiet moment, Yeol remarks that performing without even one team member will be difficult. Yeon-do agrees, but says this is the best way she knows to honor everyone's feelings. She expresses hope that the memories they've built together will shine through their struggles. Yeol assures her he'll handle Ha-jun. Determined to rescue their friend, Yeol sneaks out of the dorm, only to be intercepted by Yeon-do, who insists on coming along. The next morning, they wait in Ha-jun's building until his parents leave for golf. Once inside, Yeon-do sets off the fire alarm, prompting Ha-jun to pound on his locked door. Yeol appears at the entrance, and Ha-jun breaks into a smile as they escape together. Their housekeeper immediately informs Ha-jun's father, who speeds off in pursuit. On the way to the competition, Ha-jun suddenly stops, spotting his father's car. He tells Yeol and Yeon-do to go on ahead. Yeol stops Yeon-do from following, urging her to trust Ha-jun to handle it himself. Ha-jun confronts his father, standing firm. He declares he won't return home and that he intends to compete with his friends. When his father raises a hand to strike him, Ha-jun catches it midair. Calmly, he rolls up his sleeves, revealing his scars. "This is what your love did to me," he says, but he's done hating himself, and he's no longer afraid. With unwavering resolve, Ha-jun walks away, leaving his father shouting behind him. When the trio finally arrives at the competition venue, they find no sign of the team. Yeon-doo's spirits sink, but relief washes over her as the team rushes in, explaining they'd gone to the wrong location. The reunion sparks excitement, and they hype each other up for the performance. However, at the admin desk, they're told they can't compete because the school canceled their entry. Just as despair threatens to settle in, a familiar voice cuts through, Instructor Nam. Striding up confidently, she insists they're with her. While the kids hurry to get ready, Nam stays back, pleading with the stubborn clerk to let them participate. The kids watch the reigning champions perform, feeling the gap in skill and preparation, but Yeon-doo quickly rallies them, reminding them why they're here. Did we come to win? No. We're here because every one of us made it today. With renewed determination, they stack their hands together and cheer themselves on, ready to face whatever comes next. When their team is announced, whispers ripple through the room, threatening to shake their confidence. Sensing their unease, they clasp hands tightly, forming a chain of solidarity, and bow deeply to the audience. From the sidelines, Teacher Yang's voice rings out, declaring, "Whatever anyone else says, you're the best." The teacher's unwavering support renews their spirits. Their performance, while modest compared to their competitors, is brimming with heart. Smiles light up their faces, their joy infectious. As they conclude with their signature move, they proudly hold up letters spelling, "I'm cheering on the me of today." Instructor Nam wells up with pride, and Yang envelops her in a bear hug, their shared triumph evident. The camera lingers on each team member, capturing their exhilaration. Yeon-doo's voiceover reflects on this defining moment. This passionate, painful time of being 18, we should remember it. When I stumble again, make mistakes, or get hurt, I won't regret it. We did our best for our happiness today. Back at school, the team relives their glory, only to be mocked by classmates for placing last. But the teasing soon turns to laughter as they find humor in their journey. Ha-jun invites Yeon-doo to share a giant bucket of gummy bears with him. Placing a red and green gummy bear side by side, Ha-jun explains their story. The red bear didn't like the green bear at first. It was noisy and meddlesome. But over time, the green bear's care and kindness made the red bear appreciate it, teaching it how to love even through pain. He smiles, adding softly, "The red bear is grateful." Yeon-doo's eyes glisten as she returns his smile. Elsewhere, Yeol finds Ha-jun lying on the auditorium stage again. Laughing, he flops down beside him. "We'll get locked out again," he teases. Ha-jun smirks. "Then I'll just cuddle with you." Their shared laughter fills the empty hall, a testament to their unbreakable bond. Yeon-doo narrates the aftermath of their journey. Ha-jun's father faced legal action and is undergoing treatment, while Soo-ah's mother is under investigation for corruption. Despite the turmoil, Soo-ah maintains regular contact with her mom, even sending her a heartfelt video message, bringing a rare, genuine smile to her mother's face. At school, Teacher Im's stint as principal lasted just 3 days before a replacement was appointed. Meanwhile, Baek-ho returned to dominating the top 5% academically, and Real King resumed their role as the carefree bottom dwellers. Yet when tensions arise during a face-off, Yeol's sudden declaration, "I'm hungry, let's eat," dissolves the divide. The lines blur as they attack each other with playful hugs. Teacher Yang and Instructor Nam, both reinstated, joked about the team's tight-knit bond, teasing, "Aren't you seniors now?" Dongjae returns to basketball, easily reintegrating with his team. While fangirls clamor for his attention, it's Soo-ah who stands by his side, swiping the strawberry milk he'd saved for Yeon-doo. As for Yeon-doo and Yeol, their families have grown closer. Over dinner, Yeol watches fondly as his dad and Yeon-doo's mom bicker lovingly. He recalls a conversation with his father, who admitted his mistakes during the divorce. Yeol stumbles upon an engagement ring in his dad's car. It's accompanied by a note from Yeon-doo's mom, expressing respect for his decision to prioritize his son. "And I love you," it concludes simply. Yeol surprises himself by asking his mom in the US to adopt him, only to realize the humor in his request. When Yeon-doo catches him talking secretly, she accuses him of cheating on her. Laughing, Ha-jun swoops in, wrapping his arms around them both. Surrounded by their team, they charge forward together, ready to face whatever the future holds. That's it for today's recap. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and hit that subscribe button to stay updated on all the latest recaps. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.